Welcome to GenX Adulting, and today we have Guller with us. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you guys so much. Happy to be here.
We're so happy that you're here. The first question that we ask everyone is, what year were you born?
I was born 1996.
1996. So you are the youngest millennial.
This is news to me.
Yeah.
And
She's the expert here on this.
Yeah, and you're also part of the micro generation called Zillennials. Have you ever heard of that?
I did. Well, so I saw some of the other episodes.
Okay.
And I know Nate was like, I think I'm a Zillennial.
Yeah.
So,
You guys are Zillennials. It's like the few younger millennials and the older Gen Zs, because you are that unique group that were able to have kind of an old-fashioned childhood before technology stepped in. And even though when you guys had phones, I don't think they were anything like the phones now, right?
no, definitely not. You weren't as connected as you are now, which was kind of a blessing. And you don't have to respond to every text immediately because it takes like 3 minutes to even respond to a text.
Because you had to hit like one number 3 times, I think, just to get to a letter that you wanted, right?
Yeah, you don't get the emails, you don't get the Slacks, you don't get the Instagram likes.
Yeah.
It was a different experience for sure.
Yeah, you guys
Much quieter.
Yeah, and you didn't rely on validation for from Instagram likes or from social media likes, especially during those formative years, which I think is awesome for you guys, that you were able to kind of get through your years without that part of social media, the FOMO and all that stepping in. But you guys did have Facebook, right? You used that as your technology.
I remember I was in, I don't know, maybe it was 7th grade, and I was like, hey, Dad, like, think I could make a Facebook account? And he's like, all right, go for it. Sure. And my posts were so stupid. I was looking back at it just the other day and just nonsense. But make like little side groups with 3-4 friends and just jokes that wouldn't make any sense to anyone that was outside of them. And the fact that I even had the audacity to put that out there for other people to see, kind of like scratch your head out.
Yeah. I think the word is cringe. Most people say that it was, they look back and they say how cringe it all is. And now I think just boomers and older Gen X are pretty much, maybe some older millennials. I don't know, maybe sharing their pictures of their kids.
It's definitely slanted towards folks our age and above.
It is. It is. But I think your age definitely still uses Instagram.
Yeah, I was off for a while, but I got back on start of the year. It's one of those things where it's like, you realize it's not good for you. So you take a break and then you're like, shit, I should probably get back on.
Yeah.
I want to meet people. I want to show some of the cool things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Especially for the music stuff. I always like to post and promote and things like that. So
yeah,
I'm back now.
Now, do you use Snapchat or are you done with that?
I did for a while. And no, I don't Snapchat. Actually, I kind of get annoyed when I get a Snapchat notification now. I'm like, I should probably just delete this from my phone.
Does anyone your age really use it?
Yeah, there's some people. My sister, she's 2 years younger than me and she uses it.
Okay. And then what about TikTok?
I never got on TikTok. I know a lot of people my age are on TikTok. I've already got enough to just scroll and get distracted by it. I didn't need one other thing.
Yeah.
No, that's smart. It's very smart because it's the consumption. It's just the constant consumption. And also, as you just alluded to, the 24/7 access people have to you between texting, emails. So just to have that break, you don't need to throw in another vehicle into that. So were you born in one place or did you move around a lot in your childhood?
I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And I moved down, my mom, my dad, my sister, and I, when I was 4 years old.
Okay.
And we moved to Delray. We moved in one house. We were there for probably 2-3 years and moved to a house about a minute and a half away.
Okay. So you've grown up in South Florida?
I've been in Delray ever since 2000.
Okay. So you're a South Florida boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, all intents and purposes.
Now, how did your parents meet?
So it's funny. So my dad, his name's Ufuk. He's originally from Turkey.
Okay.
And so he moved over. His dad was a doctor, and he had studied medicine in the States briefly. They go back to Turkey, and then he says, you know what, I want to go back. I want to keep learning, become a better doctor. So he moved the family. They were in West Virginia for a little bit. And then they moved to a small rural town in North Carolina called Taylorsville. And my mom is also from rural North Carolina, like Salisbury, like Rockwell, Granite Quarry area. And then they met actually on a blind date at University of Chapel Hill.
Oh, no way.
Oh, wow.
They didn't like each other at first. And then it turns out that like the following semester, they got partnered up in a biology class.
Oh, wow.
And the flame kind of got rekindled.
Yeah, yeah.
And now here I am.
So it's destiny.
It was
Definitely
yeah.
destiny.
Mom says
cool.
my dad really had to work for her though. So.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's how it should be. So when your dad came over here, so he was born in Turkey?
Yeah, and he moved when he was 2.
So he's pretty much Americanized then.
Yeah.
Like that's all he knows.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've been back to Turkey a handful of times. We have some family there still. He speaks beginner, intermediate level Turkish.
Okay.
I speak no Turkish.
Okay. So
Biraz means very little.
what is it?
Biraz.
Verdaz?
I'm probably botching it anyways.
Well, I just did it even worse, I'm sure. So now your grandpa moved the family over here and then they just stayed here. Did they ever move back? Or
The
they
plan
stayed?
was to go back, but once they got here, they were like, yeah, we're just going to stay. And, you know, after they were empty nesters, they would go spend a year in Turkey, a year here, a year in Turkey, a year here.
Nice.
Yeah.
So do you have a lot of family still there?
I have family there. It's distant for me at this point. I am planning to go to Greece later this year for a friend's wedding. I figure if I'm over there, might as well stop by Turkey and just kind of, I haven't been back since my grandparents passed, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's been like, they were the bridge kind of between me and my sister and Turkey. So it'll be a different experience for sure going back, but I have family members, they speak English.
Yeah.
You know, they do well. Yeah. So it'll be good.
It'll be cool for you because were you more in your teen? How old were you when your grandparents passed?
I was in my early 20s when my grandma passed, and maybe a little bit younger when my grandpa passed.
Okay, so then now that you're in your late 20s, probably a whole new perspective.
Oh, definitely.
You know, if you were to go over there and have, now that the frontal lobe has closed and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so and you have a sister.
I do, Sydney.
And is she younger?
2 years younger.
And are you guys close?
Yes, very close. She's amazing. She's so supportive. I'm really fortunate that I can talk to her about anything. We have a great time together too. She's here.
awesome.
She's here in Boca as well.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
And were you always close?
She tells it differently than I do. She's like, you know, there was a really rough stint where you were mean, and I don't seem to remember it that way, if you ask me. But I guess we're closer now than we have been in the past.
Yeah, yeah. I think that happened with our 2 older kids. There was a period where like Nathan couldn't stand Kaya, and I don't think she remembers that, but he does. And then all of a sudden, they were back in and bonded and everything, and now they're like best friends.
It's just a younger sister, older brother dynamic, probably.
Yeah.
And as you get older too, you realize, like, you know, if we had differences, like, you are my only sibling.
Yeah.
So, you know, I love you, and I'm really happy that we're here. That's one of the things that's a big blessing for me, is that my family is all within 10 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
It's huge. It's huge. So your name, is that Turkish?
So it's kind of a hybrid, actually. So
Okay.
the Gul, it means smile, gul in Turkish. And my mom, being from rural North Carolina, was kind of like, you know, let's slap a ER on the end.
That's
So
awesome.
it's kind of like smiler, but the Turks don't know what it is. Americans have trouble pronouncing it. But
Have you? I think you're the only Guller in the world, right? I think that's what
I
you have
think
on your
so.
Instagram.
Yeah, the only Guller you'll ever meet.
Yeah,
There is some people have it as a last name. Actually.
Okay.
But as far as first names go, I think I'm the only one. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love
Yeah.
that because it completely represents both of your parents' backgrounds perfectly. And I love that she Americanized it so much.
I don't even know where the other L came from.
Yeah.
That's
probably
awesome.
She probably was like, oh, that looks better with another L. Let's do 2
Because
L's.
otherwise it could be like Guller, and that's
Yeah.
a little, I don't know, it's too much.
Yeah,
I tell
yeah.
people it's like color with a G.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to say it.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So when they, to go back to West Virginia, do you know what town they landed in?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I wonder if it was Morgantown, because if he
Yeah.
was in medical field, University of West Virginia University's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good medical program.
Brian
No, I'm
Hutt's
not
family from Morgantown. So that's, we
really?
always ask
Yeah.
whenever someone says West Virginia, I'm like, do you know what part?
It's a big state too, so it's not like, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
almost 7.
Yeah, almost. seven, yeah.
Yes, 100%. So your elementary school years, was there anything in particular through elementary school or middle school that you focus on, athletics or art or music?
Yeah, I always played football growing up, and you know, my family and I were big Dolphins fans. My dad even growing up in North Carolina, I guess it was Dan Marino, but he was always a big Dolphins fan. So we've been raised that way. They have season tickets. So I always played myself. And, you know, as far as music goes, yeah, this is something I wanted to ask you, but I don't know if, like did you have music classes when you were in school, when you guys were growing up?
Yes.
Did you recall like having to learn to play the recorder?
Oh
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's timeless.
It's
Yeah.
and to me it felt pointless because I'm not a music person.
Sure.
So for a lot of kids, you sit in there and you're like, why am I learning Three Blind Mice on this recorder? But it's for those
to
kids.
terrorize your parents.
Yes, but also there are those kids in there like you who are musically inclined, and that's where I think a lot of that works. You know, so it weeds out like these kids aren't into music, but you get those few that are. So you probably enjoyed that, right?
Well, I didn't really know I was into music at that point.
Okay.
You know, you guys asked me to do a little questionnaire, you know, before I came in. One of the things I put on was getting Guitar Hero 2 when I was 8.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Christmas, and it must have been when I was 7, getting ready to turn 8. And I got open the Xbox, Guitar Hero 2. I set up in the living room and I started playing. And I got pretty good. Not like top, you know, tier, but I was playing on expert. I got 100% on a couple songs. And my mom, she's like, man, you really picked up this game. You know, you should get some music lessons. And I said, all right, guitar. Yeah. I want to be a rock star.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. And she goes, okay, no problem. We'll find you a guitar teacher. And again, major shout out to my parents for just, you know, seeing that it was something that I was interested in and saying, hey, you know, I really want to enable you to do this. But for whatever reason, they had a hard time finding a guitar teacher. So my sister, she's like, all right, well, we're going to start you on piano while we look for a guitar teacher for Guller. And in the recorder class, we had a teacher. So I went to Boca Christian. Okay. And we had a teacher, Miss Blankenship. And she would kind of play the notes on the piano, and she was showing us like basic sheet music while we were playing along. I came home from school one day, and we had this old kind of upright piano that my Turkish grandma had given us because nobody was using it. She said, oh, maybe the kids will want to play. And I sat down and I'm like looking at it, and Mary Had a Little Lamb is the one that everyone starts with. And I'm just kind of like, you know, dun, 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 dun. My mom runs in, she's like, Sydney, that's the best you've ever played it, Sydney. Like, and then she looks, she just goes, Guller, what the hell? She's like, that's it. No guitar lessons for you. You're getting piano lessons.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, that was when I was 8. And so I've always had a focus on that. I was in the band. I played trumpet.
Okay. So that's like 8. That's what, 3rd grade? 4th grade? That's still pretty young.
No, not that is maybe a little too early for that. I didn't start trumpet until the 5th grade.
Okay, but the Guitar Hero thing, that would have been was like 3rd grade, and that's still pretty early to discover that passion. I was fortunate. Which is great. And you did have music classes, right?
Sure.
In your school?
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do have music classes.
I don't know.
They must.
I think Christian or Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Or religious schools probably.
Yeah,
do.
I just want, because Dylan, when he was at he was in Catholic school, he played the recorder, but I don't know if public school does.
I have no idea.
I don't know if they've cut that out. I think it's so important.
I don't know, like Boca Middle has like their band, but if maybe you have to elect to be in band.
Yeah.
I don't know if at Boca Christian was one of those things where everyone goes into the library on like the last hour of the day and they're like, pick an instrument. And some people are
that's cool.
I want to play saxophone. I want to play trumpet. So
that's awesome.
That is cool. What if that's a big facilitator actually?
Yeah.
Then you can discover what you might be interested in.
Sure. And
that's cool.
A lot of kids are just like, well, let me just bang on the drums.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's cool. So then you did band through middle school?
I did it all the way up and through my first year of high school. And I was actually, I was decent. And there were kind of 2 things that led me to stop playing the trumpet and focus more on piano. And one was I had this teacher, the band teacher, and to move up from like the first level, which was the concert band, to the symphonic band, you had to also be in the marching band. And I was playing football. So I was like, all right, well, there's that. So I don't know. There were some kids that did both. And like during the games, they would run and they would change and then they would put the hat on and you know, and then they would go back. So that was one thing that I was like, that seems like a lot. And then I had a teacher he's a fantastic trumpet player. I mean, guy was really next level. And he's like, you've got potential. You know, teachers always hype up their students. He's like, all you have to do, wake up every morning, 6 a.m. and do mouthpiece exercises for like 2 hours. And then when you get home from school, you got to play it for another 2 hours. And I was like, man,
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna play the piano.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
lot of commitment.
It was, yeah. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it takes, I guess, if you're gonna really make it your livelihood and your passion. But
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I was
But
gonna.
in some ways, if you didn't do it on your own, maybe it wasn't the passion. You had an interest, but it wasn't like, oh, I have to have this trumpet all the time.
no, it wasn't. It was, I mean, among the other things I was doing too, and also like I was a pretty good student, I'd say, through the middle school years.
Mhm.
High school, I was a good student, but I was more extracurricular oriented and less like, let me do every homework assignment.
Yeah.
And then, that kind of shifted some of my priorities and my time too.
Yeah.
I was
That
going to
makes
ask
sense.
you, how did you balance sports and music? Because both, especially at that age, did you play travel sports at all?
No, just with the school.
Okay.
So I played like Boca Christian, which honestly surprised we even had this, but we had a tackle football team. A lot of small Christian middle schools, like they just do flag football.
Yeah.
And we were out there, like, I mean, you can imagine a bunch of, however old we are, like, small white guys going out to the Everglades,
Yeah.
playing Pahokee, and
Right.
it was Glades Central. I'll never forget one day. So I'll tell a quick story. We had a dude on our team that was our biggest player, and he was like our nose tackle, and sometimes he would play center too. And his name was Grant. And they said, all right, Grant, this team is way bigger than us, so we're going to just put you at fullback because we think that's the only opportunity that we have to even, move the ball.
Yeah.
And on the very first play of the game, when they handed it to him, he runs up the middle and got hit by one of their linebackers so hard that he actually got carried off in a neck brace.
No way.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's fine now. But the rest of us are sitting there, we're scratching our heads. We're like, Coach, we're fucked. Like,
Yeah.
What did you do?
we
did
lost.
you guys
We lost in dramatic fashion.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Did everybody just kind of dive and try to stay? Like, I would have been so scared to go back out there.
We had another coach, and he was like, all right, here's the game plan. Every play on the offensive line, just dive at their knees. We're like, Coach, I don't think that's allowed in football. And he's like, it's our only chance.
That's funny.
South Florida is an extremely good football region. So
Yes.
your little Christian school going up against some of these powerhouses just isn't
It's
No,
so true.
probably
No.
not fair.
It
Yeah.
taught me a couple things about resilience, I guess.
Yeah,
I'd
for
say.
sure. So then playing for the school probably did allow you to have some that you could balance music and sports. You could
Yeah,
have the
sure.
best of both worlds
We
there.
had our practices after
So-
school, and then we had games once a week.
That's
So
funny.
So you stayed. So you stopped the band after freshman year. You said
of high school, yeah,
of high school, and so
Right.
then you were just doing football.
just joined football.
And so did you continue to play piano in your outside of school?
Yeah. So once we did find a piano teacher for me, his name is Dave Kirk. He's amazing. If he's around here, So definitely go look for him, get some lessons. But he taught me so much about like the technique and the technical component. And then I got to a certain point. Actually, here's another story. So when I was at Boca Christian, they also had a praise band that would play on Fridays, and it was like, as you'd imagine, like praise and worship, like very,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it's like poppy Christian music.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go audition for the praise and worship band. I walk in and I know how to read music. He's been kind of training me on some classical stuff. Also, my parents big on Billy Joel, Elton John. So I'm learning that kind of
Yeah.
music.
Mhm.
But
I was going to ask you about that.
yeah, no,
Some of the influences, and those two come to mind for sure.
sure.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and my first concert was Billy Joel. My
Oh.
parents took me.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I remember.
Very cool.
I remember. This is the quick aside. We were up in the nosebleeds. It was where the Heat used to play,
hmm
and I keep asking my mom, like, after every song, like, when's he gonna play Piano Man?
Yeah.
And she's like, last. And I was young. I couldn't understand the concept of an encore, and I was like,
Yeah.
please Piano Man, please Piano Man.
That's so cute.
But we were saying,
About playing piano with your
yeah,
your
right.
teacher,
right? So
Mr. Kirk, right?
Yeah, it's Mr. Kirk. And so I go to audition for the praise band, and I sit down, and they hand me like a lead sheet. It's like, okay, here are the chords: A, F minor, E, or F sharp minor. And I'm like, I have no idea how to play these because I'd only learned how to read sheet music.
Mm.
And so then I had to go back to him, and he's a great jazz player. Some of his influences are some of the greats: Oscar Peterson, Bill Evans, exactly. And so I'm like, yo, Dave, like, Mr. Kirk. He wanted me to call him Dave, but I never would.
Yeah.
My parents were like, call him Mr. Kirk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, I gotta learn how to read this stuff. I don't know how to do it. And I'm sure he wanted me to keep learning jazz and classical, but he stopped everything and he tailored his approach to helping me understand how to read chords, how to improvise, and things like that. So I owe him a huge, huge thanks for helping me progress that component. Because when it gets to playing with a band, playing with other musicians, you have to be able to speak that language, and you have to be able to, listen and look and say, okay, this gives me some freedom to do other things and just stay within the box of what's previously written in sheet music.
So I'm not completely grasping. So you could read sheet music, which I thought was what you just said, like the letters. But how when you walked in to audition, what were they presenting to you? How would you explain it's different than sheet music?
Yeah, totally. So like sheet music is like, I mean, everyone knows kind of what like the sheet music looks like with the lines.
The sheet music is the individual notes that you're supposed to play and the timing of it all, right?
You got it.
And then the chords are more, there's probably greater variance. Maybe you could explain that better. I don't know the chord part of it, but
yeah, no problem. So like you would look at, basically it's a page of lyrics, and then on the page of lyrics above the word where the chord changes, it would say like play an A chord. It just has the letter A. Versus opposed to like all the little dots and the lines.
Okay.
And so the first time I didn't know, I was like, all right, play an A. So I just put one finger on the piano. I'm like A, D, and they're like, you need to go practice a little more.
Okay.
So when you do that, actually, when you were playing chords, you have to play the whole A chord, type of thing. Okay, which is multiple notes.
Yeah, typically at least two, three, but it could be.
Now I understand. Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem.
Because I was picturing it in my head. And I've seen sheet music, but then when you started talking about what they were presenting to you, I wasn't completely understanding.
That must have opened up your world, though, because from what I understand about chords, everyone says learn the chords.
Yeah.
Because then you can just jump in and play, and if you stay within a chord, your sound is within the right range. So that had to have opened up the whole. Now you're like fluid. You could probably jam. You could sit in and.
That was the start of that. So getting that foundation. Even just to play basic, praise and worship music on Fridays. That really, like you said, opened my eye to open my world to, okay, wow, this is what it's like to play with other people.
Yeah.
You have to listen so much more. And there's a lot of merit and nuance to solo performance, but I personally have way more fun playing with other people than just playing solo.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into the praise and worship band?
I did. Yeah, I did. And I had the lady who led it. There was another girl that was a all-state singer. She was an incredible singer, had a beautiful voice, and she had just started learning piano. She was very tight with the lady who led the band, so I think she gave her like the test answers ahead of time, like, yo, like play this. And so I came in, and I had never played the chords, but as I mentioned to you guys, I learned. Dave helped me, and I was able to make it and play. But what this lady did, the lady who led the band, she actually says, okay, well, Guller, here's what we're gonna do. This girl is gonna play the piano, and you're gonna sing. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. She's an all-state singer. I never sang in my life. I'm terrified to sing.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, and this is the first time I've really looked at it back from this lens, but now I have a lot of confidence in my singing. But that first time that I sang up, and it was just at a practice, but I was shaking.
That had to have been terrifying. Oh my gosh.
Well, Kaya, she sang in a what was like a kids rock band type of thing.
Yeah, she did.
And she would sing, and she was excellent, phenomenal singer, really. She would get nervous sometimes and be like almost ready to throw up before she would go on. And
I think
the nerves
before every time, but to just be randomly asked to sing, like, I guess it was
almost
good,
seems unfair.
But it's good she just like threw you on the spot because you had no time to be nervous almost. It was just in that moment, and then you had to just go for it.
I was pissed, but I was pissed that I wasn't playing piano because that's really what I wanted to do. But
so did you sing more than that one time? Like, were you singing
and singing, and then in front of the crew, not the crew, I guess, would be the other kids.
So she's sitting there playing piano, which is what you want to do.
Yeah.
But you're having to sing like just in front of a mic solo.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I would have thought she would have wanted to also sing because she was this like celebrated singer. So
she was so good.
yeah,
She was way better than I was. But
did you ever get a chance to play piano?
yeah.
Okay.
We would swap off on songs. So,
Okay.
but she still got probably 60% of it.
Yeah.
And
So you did that all the way through till you graduated?
At least
This was
at least through middle school. Yeah.
Through middle school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Middle
I thought
school.
this was high school.
No. This was through middle school.
Just through middle school. So
And
then in high school, you basically after 9th grade stopped in school. But then outside of school, did you continue to do anything?
So I met a friend playing football. His name is Bobby. And Bobby is still to this day one of my best friends. But he had a cousin that was on American Idol. And so we struck up our conversation initially from football. After, knowing him for a couple months, he tells me this. And I'm like, dude, you know what that means, right? You can sing. He's like, no. I was like, absolutely, you have to sing. I play the piano. It's perfect. We'll be a band.
Yeah.
And so we used to get together, and I would play, and I coached him on I think this sounds good. You should do it this way. And his cousin was a big influence on both of us. Actually, cousin, you can find him on Apple Music, Spotify. It's John.K. John.K.
And he was on American Idol?
Yeah.
Okay. And now he's on Spotify with his own music?
Yeah, he's a professional musician. He does it.
That's awesome.
That's what he does. But he was a huge influence on it.
John.K. Okay.
Check him out.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's poppier stuff than what I normally listen to now. But his first album back when it was just Johnny Keyser, this is his name. He that album had a huge influence on us. And then like my buddy Bobby, he loved Gavin DeGraw too. So like that was our shit. And I would sit there and I'd play the piano and I'd be like, yo, Bobby, sing like this. Because I was still getting confidence in my own voice. And Bobby did have a great voice. So we continued to play all the way through high school. Even now, sometimes we still play.
Do you really?
Yeah.
So would you guys like get together after school or on the weekends?
After school. Yeah, after school, weekends, all the time. We were playing music.
You just always play music.
Is this Bobby that played baseball?
No.
And Big Fisherman?
No.
Okay, different guy.
Different Bobby.
Yeah, okay.
There's so many of them out there.
Okay. Yeah, true.
So that was really your first band?
That, if you don't count the mini praise and worship band, it was just me and him. It was a little duo.
Would you ever perform?
We would occasionally. So as we got later in high school, sometimes, we'd be at restaurants or whatever and our parents together. And my dad would be like, you got to let my kid on the piano, So and again, to my parents, always huge supporters of music from the very beginning. And Bobby's parents too, they had a piano at their place and we'd go, and his mom, so funny. We played all kinds of stuff, but this was back when that song Thrift Shop was popular.
Yeah.
And
that's Macklemore, right?
Yeah, Macklemore.
Yeah.
And we talk about the cringe moments, like thinking about now. Like,
did you get a big fur coat?
I didn't, but we came up with like our own piano, like vocal rendition. We'd like swap off the vocals, like, but shit, it was 99 cents. Like, so, and his mom, she'd be like, play Thrift Shop, play Thrift Shop, play Thrift Shop, until she was blue in the face. She'd be like, no. And then
that's awesome. I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, now if you guys were out there, you'd be TikTok stars because people would film you out and about at restaurants and probably you'd be all over social media. So now, real quick, going back to your parents' support of your music, are either one of them musically inclined or have it in their background?
No. But in the background, yes. So my grandpa on my mom's side is one of 4 and they children. They grew up in rural North Carolina, and the grandpa is one of 13, and they all played a lot of music. And the grandpa in particular said, all right, I'm going to take my boys and we're going to have a family bluegrass band.
Awesome.
Oh, sweet.
So none of them ever really got formal lessons, to my knowledge, but my grandpa played the mandolin in a bluegrass band.
Amazing.
And my uncle Steve, I see that one. I saw that when I walked in. My Uncle Steve is actually a really good banjo player, plays with a couple different bands. They've got some music online too.
That's awesome.
What's the name of your Uncle Steve's band?
If he hears this, he'll be like, how do you not know the name of my band, Guller? But
tell us later. We'll slide it in.
We'll put it in the description.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, cool. and the connection. Now, what about your grandfather? Did he have any music out there? That's
no.
Okay.
So yes, not officially though. Like they would play like these barn weddings and things.
Yeah,
like
cool.
I saw a clip from like the 90s where they were the Dunn Mountain Boys. was the name of the bluegrass band that they had.
Yeah.
And they went around to North Carolina. They played different like bluegrass festivals and things like that. But the only videos that I've seen are like home, like shaky VHS, like, videos of them.
What we would have been doing back in the day.
Are you into bluegrass at all?
I do like bluegrass. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that that's like, you know, top of my list, but when
it's in your blood.
The improvisational component. I love anything improvisational.
Yeah.
And I love the harmonies too. So I think those things really appeal
We're
to
actually
me.
going to see Billy Strings up in St. Augustine in a couple weeks.
I was gonna ask when you brought up bluegrass, I was gonna say and I know you like jam music. I can see all of your tapes of the Dead.
Yeah.
I've gotten super into Billy Strings.
So into Billy
Strings. Not just Billy himself, but the violinist or the fiddler, right? The banjo, the stand-up bass, the mandolin. These guys are so tight. Yeah.
Yeah, he loves. So that's why I knew you would perk up when he was talking about the bluegrass. So that's really cool.
And that St. Augustine Theater is amazing too. I went up there in end of October. So I'm wearing this Goose shirt.
Oh, you saw Goose?
Yeah. Okay. I've seen him a handful of times, probably 6-7 times. But so we saw him in Miami. They played like a Wednesday. And then Friday, Saturday, they played up at that St. Augustine Amphitheater. And that was my first time going up there, but it is awesome. They've really got it down.
We haven't been there yet. We're looking forward to it.
Oh, you guys are going to love it.
We're so excited. I think we're in the last row because the tickets sold out, but hopefully there's not a bad seat.
People up there, it's pretty kind of jam heavy. People love it there.
Yeah.
St. Augustine.
Tickets to that amphitheater sell out so fast.
It's not huge.
Yeah.
That's part of what makes it so nice.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
We're trying to buy tickets and you had to buy a 3-day pass.
Yeah.
Really?
So we're going out for 3 days. Twist our arm.
Yeah. I know we're not too. Now, what did your mom do? Was she a stay-at-home mom or?
Yeah. My mom, so she raised me and she raised Sydney, and then she worked alongside my dad for a while. She would help him with various things for the business.
And what does your dad do?
My dad's an entrepreneur. So he's had a number of different ventures, but all travel oriented. Nice. Until recently. He's got one that's kind of in a different field now. But he sold cruises on the internet, actually.
Oh, okay, cool.
His company was one of the first to sell cruises on the internet, and he's actually in the Cruise Line Hall of Fame.
No way.
No way.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So cool. That is so cool.
That's cool.
Okay, so to go back to high school, so you're playing football, you're in your first unofficial band with your friend Bobby. And then you graduate. Did you go to college from there, or did you decide just to delve right into music?
No, I went to FSU.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to FSU and went up to Tallahassee summer of 2014.
Was that your first choice?
No, and actually, so this is some maybe important context that I'll slide into. So I mentioned I was never the best like book student, you know. I had one biology teacher who used to get mad at me. She said I just learned by osmosis because I would go and I would just sit there and I'd crack jokes, and sometimes I'd even nod off in class, like, you know, whatever. I was sharp and I would just soak it all in.
Yeah.
And but I was really prominent in the extracurriculars. So I was in a club called DECA. And actually I was one of the presidents. We me and my friend Bobby, we were so tight, him and I, that instead of one of us running for president and one of us running for VP, we were like, let's run as co-presidents.
Oh, I love that.
And,
that's awesome.
And then senior year, I was Mr. Boca High.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. So wait. Now we switched schools. You went to Boca High?
Just Boca Christian for middle school.
And then you
elementary, and then I went to Boca High.
Okay, so you went from private school into a public school for 9th grade then.
Yeah, and it was one of the best things that could happen to me.
So was there how was that though in 9th grade? How was that transition? Was it hard for you to acclimate in with the public school kids, or was it challenging all coming from a smaller school?
I don't think so. Not for me, because I had a good group of friends from Boca Christian. So some of my best friends, Zach, Austin, and Pedro, all made that same switch. Our parents were like kind of united on that front. Like,
yeah,
there was a stigma about leaving Boca Christian because they had the high school too, and like you would kind of get like,
it's small though,
like blacklisted, or like, you know, people they thought about it. Oh, well, you're not going to go to the high school, then you can't do this or that. So my parents were like, all right, we're gonna all do it together with all of our kids.
Yeah.
So we made that transition together, and already having kind of like a pre-built-in group of friends to make the move with.
That's smart.
It was
You had a small
Yeah.
squad you could go in with.
Yeah, that's
so
smart.
you could hang out at lunch or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I meet my friend Bobby. That was during the summer, like 2-a-days for football. Like this freshman year hadn't even started yet.
Yeah.
And I'm already meeting people that I
Yeah.
ended up becoming really good friends with. So
you're glad that you went to such a large high school.
yeah, absolutely. I think I'm a social person, and like there's benefits to going to a small school. Like, don't get me wrong. Oh, you want to be in the band. Oh, you want to do this. So you want to, like, you have a shot to do everything.
Yeah.
But having to compete to do the things that I wanted to do, especially like be the president of the club or be Mr. Boca High, like I had to run against other people, do interviews with everyone, including the principal. Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I did that helped prepare me, I think, for later in life and give me a lot of confidence too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think Boca High, especially academically, what you can get from it.
Yeah, at the time
You
it was
know.
number 22 public school in the nation when I was there.
Yeah,
Yep.
with all the ACE and the AP and it still offers that. So,
Mhm.
okay, so then you graduate Boca High, but you were saying you were learning through osmosis.
Yeah. So my first pick was to go to University of Florida, and my
Okay.
other FSU people, like, you guys are gonna hate hearing that, I'm sure. Maybe some of you guys know that, maybe not. I had a lot of, like, my other friends that I mentioned, they had older siblings that went there, and I just, you know, I went up to visit, and I had other people that I was friends with that were older that I went and visited, and I saw the games. I saw Jameis Winston absolutely scorch them one time for a UF-FSU game. He threw, like, I remember
It was awesome.
a huge bomb, a huge bomb to Kelvin Benjamin. I'll never forget being there and being like, ah, shit, we're getting smoked, but this Jameis guy is awesome. So, but then, so I didn't get in. FSU was next school on my list. And so I applied to UNC, but, you know, I didn't get in there. I didn't really want to go to Miami. So FSU it was.
Now, did you tour the schools before?
Yeah, both of them.
Now, when you walked onto each campus, did you feel you belonged to one over the other? Because they're very different campuses.
I didn't feel like a different sense of belonging, no.
Okay, so you would have been fine with either one.
I definitely knew more people at UF, and that's why I wanted to go there. And you know, I could say subjectively, maybe it would have been better or worse in the outcome of my life, but here I am, here at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, it's tough to be like, oh, it could have gone this way, it could have gone this way, but I'm happy with the fact that I went to FSU. It opened up in a weird roundabout way a lot of other opportunities for me to learn and grow and develop myself. That I'm grateful of, and I'm sure that I wouldn't have gotten at UF.
It's probably more of a challenge.
It was a huge challenge.
Socially, at least, right? Because you're having to make new friends and all of that, whereas you would have more of a comfort group maybe at UF.
Yeah, definitely. It put me in position, like, so I think going to college in general, and like my parents, again, I've mentioned how supportive they are and how amazing they are, but with that comes like a degree of like shelteredness and structure that isn't entirely your own. And then so and some people, I guess, are ready for that, and I was not at all. So when I got to FSU, and I'm like, well, you know, they're not the best academic school, but what are they really good at? They're really good at partying and winning football games. So I lacked for sure that like self-governance, and I dove into, like, you know, maybe things that in retrospect I shouldn't have been spending all my time doing.
Right.
But like I said, get that out of your system early. And it poses challenges. I didn't know what I wanted to study, and I guess some advice, if I could give to any younger people out there that are listening, is like, it doesn't matter what school you're going to, but like, set your intention before you go. My intention was non-existent. I was like, all right, I'm going now. Like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I think if I had a plan, and I get it's so hard for kids to be like, well, what do you want to do with your life? I mean, shit, I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Us too.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So I think everyone can relate to that to some degree. But yeah, set an intention, and I didn't have one, and I studied general business, and then I studied marketing, and then I studied music for a semester, like music production and commercial music. And then actually at one point I even got academically dismissed because I wasn't
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it was a tough situation.
Was that like in the early freshman, sophomore?
No, that was senior year.
So you were really enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Did you join a frat?
But I think
I was in a fraternity, yeah.
Okay.
But I think what you're describing too is part of the college experience, because you came out on the other side, you're doing well. And part of college is that, right? Not everybody's at the same.
For sure.
They're not on the same path, right? Some kids go into school and they're out in 2 years with a degree.
Yep.
Others go in and it's just a different path.
It
sure works out.
And that's when I said FSU in the end gave me different experiences that I would have never got from the University of Florida.
Yeah.
Like, so I get academically dismissed. I go to TCC for a semester. I reapply to FSU. They have a program like TCC to FSU.
Yep.
I don't get reaccepted. I'm freaking out. I'm like, all right, shit, what do I do?
Oh my gosh, this is happening senior year?
Yeah, it's just actually, I'm a little even after that now. And so now I moved back home.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, well, let me apply to FAU. Apply to FAU. I don't get in. I'm like, I'm going to go to PBSC. I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
And then actually, I was scrolling through LinkedIn. Why? I don't know. Like talking about all these different social media platforms. And I never do this. And I see this article about this lady from FSU, Jill, and she's pioneering an innovative new program where she's basically cold calling students who got 80% of their way to the degree and coming up with ways that they can still graduate from FSU.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This is me. So I send her an email. Hey, this is my story. She goes, let's get on a call. And she talk about people that I owe huge thanks. I don't even know if she remembers me, but I owe Jill so much thanks because she went and she talked to the degree posting, what do they call it? But anyways, from TCC, and they found out that my degree there just posted incorrectly, and that's why FSU rejected me, and that's why FAU rejected me, and she got it fixed, got me readmitted, hooked me up with an advisor, got me on a fully remote online program, and and I really helped put all the pieces together for me. My buddy Bobby, his dad had I was working for him actually at this time, so thank you to their family also for giving me a job while I navigated all this.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Was that during COVID as well?
Yeah. I've ended up my graduation date was December of 2021.
Okay.
And
you got to walk and everything up at FSU.
I had the opportunity to walk, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But that's amazing that happened. I mean, that just blows my mind because I can't imagine the stress you were going through senior year having that happen. That's insane alone. And then to reapply and to be denied, not just from FSU, but then from FAU.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you stayed on that. And you said it was just you randomly were scrolling LinkedIn, but the fact that you still were like, I'm going to email her. I'm going to see what comes of this, you know, and because to get that far and then to not be able to finish it would have just, something you would have regretted in general. So.
Oh, and that was one of the big things that was, weighing on me. I see all my other friends, they have their degrees.
Yeah.
One of my friends is working for Microsoft and killing it. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm so far behind him. My dad in particular, he's very strong-willed, he's business-minded, successful at everything he does. I know how much it was eating at him. So part of me is like, I have to do this for myself, but also I have to do this for him. I have to close the chapter. And he always told me, he's like, look, a degree, that's what it's for at the end of the day, to prove that you can see something through. And, I definitely had my share of obstacles and hurdles to overcome in that process. But man, did it feel good when I finally got it.
I bet. Cool. What was your degree in?
It was interdisciplinary social sciences with a concentration in economics and geography.
Nice. Awesome. I love it.
You sure you weren't on the football team?
Yeah.
So that 2021 was a big year for you because you were finishing that degree. You graduated December 2021.
Yeah.
So was there anything else going on that year any big changes?
Yeah. So 2021, just in general. So at the time when I moved back, I was working for my buddy Bobby's dad's company, and I was living in a house with two of my buddies, Zach and then Bobby. And so it was during the COVID era, so we're all working together from home. It kind of, you guys ever seen that show Workaholics?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's basically a bunch of friends who work together. But that's an office setting, but it was that
Okay.
in our house.
What were you doing?
I was working for Bobby's dad's company, which was an investment bank.
Okay.
And I was not family, but I was like basically a nepotism hire.
Yeah.
And so
those are the best kind.
Yeah.
Connections help, man.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, it was cool. It was a good opportunity. Like I said, I'm grateful for them. I don't think it was a good fit for me at the end of the day. And like my direct boss, I wasn't getting a lot of like mentorship or support or guidance from.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a job, and they paid me probably better than I should have been paid, and it allowed me to finish up everything. But yeah, as I'm going through this volatile transition period, leaving FSU, trying to figure out how I'm going to finish my degree. I didn't have a lot of confidence. I had put on a bunch of weight in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of really just like in a rut. And I know kind of from some of the other podcasts I listen to, I know you're more of a philosophical guy. So one that I personally subscribe to is Peaks and Valleys.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it works is this: it's like life is going to be a series of ups and downs.
Yeah,
for sure. But what does that mean? It means when you're in a valley, you can always keep your head up because you know there's a peak coming. But when you are on a peak, when you feel like things are going well, don't be afraid to stop for a second and actually just appreciate how great it really is.
And so true. That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
And thanks. In that moment, I was definitely in a valley, and I even had this thought in my head though, so I knew it was going to be all right. But another one of my best friends, a couple of my best friends, they all rallied around me to basically support me and help me out. Sal is he does amazing things with meditation and breath work, and he's actually in Peru right now teaching class. He taught a class on meditation to there's like 250 people down there on the beach. Like,
wow,
he's made his own company.
What's the name of his company?
It's Liberty Breathwork.
Liberty?
Yeah, Liberty. Liberti. He comes back to Boca every now and then. He does classes. He does this thing called holotrophic breathwork, which if you've never done, you should try. But anyways, he was really like the voice that I could talk to about all of this.
How did you get connected with him?
Playing football at Boca High.
Okay.
And he moved into Boca High junior year. And we played together and we had class together, and my core group of friends really brought him in too. And my buddy Zach dated his sister.
Okay, well,
his sister was friends with my sister, so it's all kind of like
yes.
It's all kind of connected.
Yeah.
And then my other friend Austin, another smart guy, entrepreneur, had a fitness company that he started called Boca Body. And so, I'm talking to Sal, getting the mental piece, figured out. Talking to Austin, I'm like, yo, Austin, man, I really need some help with this. So he comes up with, I think I was like their second client, maybe. But he puts together a whole plan, 90-day transformation. And then there's another dude he worked with named Sean, who is just a fantastic trainer. And they work with me and, got me. I was at like, almost 220 pounds, and I cut 45 pounds off.
Wow.
That's cool.
Got my confidence back, got my degree.
That's amazing.
Everything really kind of started to fall into place.
Yeah. Started to get up on a peak. You ended on a peak.
I started to.
Yeah. So the Boca Body, is it like CrossFit, the concept like that?
No, it was more just like he had me lifting weights, and it was not so much cardio, but the whole idea was that it's holistic, right? It's not just the workout component. They also, got me on a diet, on a meal plan. I would have weekly check-ins with him or with Sean. And I was working out with Sean too. And they had this app that they still have an app, and it's got all these workouts on it. So, I mean, I owe him
mind and body.
Yes. Very similar.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they probably work on that with like a rebrand, like white label it to make it their own.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's life-changing.
It sure was.
Because have you continued to take the things you transformed during 2021 with you up to this day?
Peaks and valleys. I still make the Boca Body smoothie recipe a couple times a week. So
there you go.
No, I think just that shift. And because that's how I was back when I was in high school. I was playing football. I I wasn't like ever, I wasn't like in great shape, but I wasn't in bad shape, and I was clear-minded, and I was confident, and I was social, and I was outgoing. And I just felt like a piece of me had been robbed by kind of the struggles and the adversity I went through, like finishing my college experience. But to see all of that kind of come through and pull through with help from Jill that I randomly found on LinkedIn, and help from some of my best friends, and support from my parents and my mom. I haven't talked about my mom at all yet, but she was, oh man, I can't say enough about her. She's just the most amazing person in the world. So
I'm sure she supported you through every step of everything.
I think, and actually I was going to ask you, because it feels so apparent based on what you've said so far about your parents. You're in this valley. They had to have been there for you the whole time, right?
My dad was pissed.
We're supposed to be. That's our job.
Rightfully so. But my mom was a cheerleader for me throughout the whole thing, and I'm sure she got some flack from my dad even at times. Like, how can you support him through this? Like, he's fucking around so much. But you know, it is what it is. And you know, my dad and I were on great terms now. We've never been better.
Yeah.
My mom, same thing. You know, I try and take her out and treat her and do things just to let her know how much I care and how appreciative I am. But yeah, if it wasn't for them, and if it wasn't for my friends, and it wasn't for this amazing support network that I had, I mean, who knows how things could have turned out. I mean, I'm strong-willed, I'm confident, I'm determined, but you know, to anyone that might be struggling with something, I know there's kids out there that are in the same position that I was in, struggled in college, don't know what they're going to do. Get help, and just get it from your friends and from the people that care the most about you.
Yes.
Did you ask for help, or did they just kind of know it and kind of like a symbiotic thing?
I was never like, guys, I need help, but like, with best friends, you talk to them and you tell them the things you're going through, the things you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And so, they helped me resolve that and see through to the other side. So
that's cool.
That's amazing. And as far as moms, I mean, we typically, no matter what, have our kids' backs, even if, you know, even if the dad is like, come on, like that's our job. You know, that's 100% our job. And it's just wonderful that your parents, even during, because they were always so supportive of you, but even when it got really maybe dark or a little, they were still 100%. Even if your dad was frustrated, he was still there for you. You know, and I'm sure your sister, in addition to your friends. So you have this pivotal moment, and what then you take on, you head into 2022. Do you continue to work for Bobby's dad during that time?
Yeah, so I did until March of 2022. So the nature of the business was kind of like, you know, we'd work on big deals for a couple months, and we would get commission checks come through. So kind of like, it was like we were working on a big deal, so I worked with it to see through the end of it. And then after that, it's all right, it's all good. And then after that, I decided, okay, I want to make a change. You know, I'm not super inspired, you know, working in this role. I'm not being challenged, you know, the way that I'd like to be. And I know that something has to go a little different in order for me to keep, you know, developing myself and growing, because I'm on this path of growth and development. So I need that to continue. So I actually took about a 3-month break just from working, kind of like, a lot of people would do like a gap year or something after they graduate. Well, I never really had a chance to do that. So I did a couple things. I was dating a girl at the time, and her family was from up north in Massachusetts. So I went up and I visited them, you know, went out to Martha's Vineyard and had a big family reunion with them, which was cool. We went on a cruise. We played a lot of music. I think that May of 22, we played something like 6 shows, which, you know, was a lot for us. Cool. Everyone in the band is working. So.
Well, wait, we skipped ahead. So where did the band? So the band. When is the band formed?
The band. So I didn't form the band. I would have met them in the end of 2021, and this is a funny story. So the way that I met them was I was at a company Christmas party, December of 21. And, you know, I work with some other guys my age, Bobby and other friends. And we were, it was like on somewhere on the beach in Delray. We had like a nice Christmas party. We're all wearing suits. And we decided afterwards, like, oh, let's go out to the Avenue. Let's go out. And we bopped around to a couple different places and ultimately ended up at a bar called Third and Third. which I don't know if you guys are
Yep.
or were familiar.
I
Yep.
think we saw you there
Yes,
back in the
did.
day.
that's right.
Yeah.
We
That's
did.
right. Because I remember you were in the back when we played Shakedown Street.
Yeah,
You were bobbing your head.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
But so I had a similar experience there. You know, I'm in the back and I'm, you know, we're drinking, and all of a sudden I'm looking up there and I see these guys. And it was my musical, like, I have like 3 stories that I could tell. There's the musical development story, there's the personal story, which we've been on, and then there's like the career trajectory one. We've kind of left some of the music stuff out, but just to give a quick kind of catch up to speed, at this point, I'm playing with a group of like 55, 60-year-old dudes based out of Coral Springs called the Ruminators. That is like,
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
I have.
maybe.
No, I have. I've heard of them. Why would I have?
Well,
I feel like one of my friends.
I feel like I've heard of them too.
Yeah.
Then I
Play
looked
mostly
them up.
dead music.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my friends' husbands plays in that band.
Do you know?
Yeah. I have to
it's
think.
Scott, Jeff, Rich.
Oh,
don't
we're
know.
we're
Bass
not
player
like
keeps
we're not
changing around.
close. It'll come to me as we're talking. But
I looked
yes.
them up because of your, what you
Yeah.
told us. And I saw there these old guys. So I'm like, I don't have the right band.
Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
have
They had the right
you
band.
have the right band.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I know who that. So you played with them?
So there's a website out there called Bandmix, and
Mhm.
Bandmix is basically like Match.com for musicians. I'm a keyboard player seeking
Right.
a band that
Yeah,
plays
yeah.
like jam music. These are my influences. And then Scott is over there on the other side, and he's like, I am a band that plays most of the Grateful Dead, looking for a keyboard player. And so he
Okay.
called me. We had a big chat. He's
That's
actually
cool.
a big fan of Goose too.
Yeah.
So I remember having the conversation with him that day on the phone, and I was like, all right, yeah, screw it. I'll take my gear and I'll go out there. And they practice in Jeff's garage, which he's got, like, you guys have a really nice studio here. He's got it figured out. He's got it
Yeah.
really nice in his garage. But so I'm playing dead music with these guys. I'm a big head already at this point, which we can get back to.
Yeah.
And
What year would this? So is this?
this was like late 2020, earlier 2021. Probably,
So
no,
when you moved back?
I moved
from
back,
Tally?
I moved back in 2018. So I've been back.
Remember, he didn't go up for
Right.
the graduation walk. He was
Yep.
remote at that point.
I did it online.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you were here.
Correct.
Did you do any music in FSU?
Yes. I had a band up there called the Stone Keys Band, which is, I put that on the list too.
Yeah.
That was basically a band that combined people from different fraternities and sorority. We had a girl too. She was in one of the sororities, and thank God we had her, because she got us booked at sorority events, and she would always bring
Yeah.
all her
Yeah.
friends out, which was great. And actually, one of the guys in the band, the drummer, his name's Angelo. He's out in Nashville doing music now.
Wow.
That's cool.
My other buddy Sean, he was one of our guitar players. Now he's out in, he was in Austin for a while. I think he's in Seattle now, and they have a band.
Wow.
I'll look that up if we could plug the
Yeah,
name of that band.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody you
It's
have?
Balcony Bridge. isn't it?
Balcony Bridge.
Balcony Bridge, based out of Seattle. They're awesome too. And then another friend, Josh, one of the best guitar players I played with. Just the touch the guy has and the ear for music is spectacular. Anyways, so yeah, I played with them.
Was that your next band after you and Bobby had your little
Well,
thing?
and Bobby. Bobby was our singer.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So it went from you and Bobby in like those years.
Yeah. So
and
when
then
we
the
got
ne-
up to FSU and we are like, all right, time to start a real band.
So that was your first quote unquote real band.
Yes.
Was the Stone Keys.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I have to also mention Mitchell, who's one of my best friends too. He's a coworker, fraternity brother, roommate, now bandmates, and the current coworker. We're still very,
Okay.
and he's in a current band that we play in too, but he was the bass player too for a stint in the Stone Keys band.
Okay.
So we had a nice
and that was from different fraternities and then the sorority girl.
and so that was great because we could get
Yeah,
people
that's cool.
people from all over. It wasn't
Yeah.
like we were only playing for ourselves.
That is so cool. So you did that, and then when you left Tally, was that the end of Stone Keys for you?
We disbanded the Stone Keys band
Okay.
because everyone kind of went their different ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I still got the logo. I have the logo, and I think I have
That's
the
cool.
website. So
That's cool.
Very
maybe it'll
cool.
make a
Yeah.
resurgence at some point.
And then was
That's
your
cool.
next band the Ruminators?
No, through Bandmix, I got connected with a group they were calling themselves the Anonymous, and they were basically they played at a church. They were a praise and worship band for a church that was creating a secular band to go play bars.
Okay, wow.
And that was like my first, like, oh, I'm back here in South Florida. And actually, so there's two other moments that I'd like to share. One is actually, I put it on the list, the piano recital when I was when I was younger. And I don't know, I must have been middle school, early middle school. And Dave Kirk had me practicing and preparing Pachelbel's Canon. You know, so there's, you know, a piano recital, whatever, for Boca Christian. And, you know, I've been practicing, but I was like, not really practicing like I should. And, long story short, the recital day comes and I get up there and, you know, it's probably 300 people, whatever.
It's a lot of people.
It's like it is
the
a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, I guess. And so I'm playing, and about halfway through, I completely lose my place in the music. I completely lose my place. But I didn't stop. I was like, I just can't stop because that's gonna be the worst thing I could do.
Yeah.
So I finally get my way back, and I finish the song, and it's like one of those like slow, awkward, like, oh man, should we clap for him kind of thing. So, and I walk off, and as I'm getting off stage, this one dad, not my dad, just a dad that was there, runs up. He's like, way to finish, son. And I'm like, what a dick.
Oh my gosh. Was he doing it to be mean?
No, I think he was really
trying to be supportive.
He was really trying to encourage me. But I was like, that's not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
And I go, and the worst thing about it was Dave Kirk had come that night. And he was there, and I sit down, and you know, he's like, oh, you did great. But I know that I didn't do great. So my dad, he has a saying, perfect practice prevents piss poor performance.
I like that.
Was it perfect practice? 7 P's, however many P's there are.
Yeah. I like that.
So after that really struck me like, all right, I'm not going into anything unprepared. And even like my Bobby, just 2 weekends ago, we celebrated his birthday. It's on the 15th. And we do a big brunch. We've been doing a brunch for like, you know, the past couple of years. And now I give a speech every year, and I'll come with like, you know, charts and like exhibits, and like I write my notes out, and my friends are like, oh, Guller with the pageantry, always with the pageantry. But I think I got that from that. Like, even if it's something small, like if it's a work presentation, if it's, it doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to be rehearsed.
Right.
That was one piece. And then
that was a pivotal moment that you took and then applied what your dad had taught you. You kind of learned that lesson early.
I had to learn it myself, though.
Yes.
You know, otherwise,
and you were 9?
No, I was a little older. I was probably like, I don't know, whatever, sixth grade. Okay. Sixth grade or so was
like 11,
10,
11,
11.
Yeah. But you know, it would have taken a moment like that for you to truly understand your dad's motto.
Yeah.
To be able to apply it.
And then it sunk in for me. And then so now I'm back. Like, so fast forward a little bit. I get back from Tallahassee. I'm still here. I'm figuring all my shit out. And I'm like, man, you know what's missing? Like, you know, for my life right now is, you know, music. You know, I haven't really played with anyone. And I was going to concerts, and actually the first jam concert I ever went to, aside from, and we'll get back to this, I'm sure, when I saw Dead and Company, which was really my introduction to jam music, was Umphrey's McGee at the Fillmore in Miami. I didn't even know who they were or whatever.
They're good.
They're awesome.
Very good.
They're awesome. Sweet. But during set break, I'm walking around the Fillmore, and there was like an upright piano, and I'm just like, oh, you know what? Let me fuck around on it a little. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, yo, I have a band, and we really need a keyboard player. Our keyboard player just left. Like, would you want to audition? And I'm like, all right, yeah, why not? So they're based out of Boca too. It worked out great.
Yeah, cool.
So, but it was like ska reggae. I never played anything like that. That was kind of outside of my wheelhouse, but I was like, all right, yeah, whatever, screw it. I'll go and I'll see.
Wow. And
I show up to this rehearsal, and I absolutely bombed. Just horrible. And, like everyone, and they were good. I mean, it wasn't really my style of music, but they had horns, that horn section. Like, they were like
a lot going on.
Yeah,
they were rocking. And afterwards, the guy, he's kind of like, all right, well, like, you know, if they want you to come back, I'll call you. And I was like, I knew, I was like, I tanked that shit.
Yeah.
So then that was the other moment where I was like, you know what, I'm better than that. I need to step up my game. So I went and I bought myself a new keyboard. I started really practicing, really rehearsing, learning a ton of dead tunes, which you all these chords, which helps you be a better musician, focusing on improvising. Then I started playing with these guys, the Anonymous.
Okay.
And I found them through Band Mix too. And They were good. They were really, really good. They were very much just starting out. And some of the guys were kind of, there were some guys that were very talented in the band.
Mm-hmm.
There were some guys that were much more like entry level musicians
Right.
that had kind of like gotten their,
Mhm.
anyways, we'd go to the rehearsals and I'd be like ready to play. And the guy's like, oh, wait, like, you know, let me look up the chords again. And I felt like it wasn't organized.
Mhm.
So that's
Right.
why I started playing with Ruminators.
Okay.
And I started playing with Ruminators. Now we're back up to speed. Now I'm at third and third.
Okay.
And I love the music, and these guys, you know, they're up there in age a little bit, so they're not like jumping around, and you know,
Yes.
they would play out like, you know, once a quarter, once every 6 months, and I see these young guys my age wearing Dead shirts, playing Shakedown Street,
Mhm.
and I'm over there in the back, and I'm like, I gotta play with these guys. They don't have a keyboard player. They need a keyboard player, and I'll never forget too. They played Comfortably Numb, that and the guitar player's doing that whole crazy solo at the end, and I'm like, these guys are the shit.
Yeah.
So I go up there and I go to the bar. I'm like, I had a few, and I'm like, I need like receipt paper and a pen.
Yeah.
So I write down my name, my number, you know, I slip it in the tip jar with some money, and I'm like, call me. I'm like, I'll fill the space. Like they joke now, they're like, you said you were gonna fill the space like 30 times. And
What's funny?
Long story short, they ended up giving me a call.
You.
They gave me a call, and I went and I auditioned with them.
Yeah.
And we knew right away, like, yo, this is gonna be a good fit.
Yeah. But that was a lot of it because of your commitment. From what you said, I need to restructure, I need to commit again, and you put the work in, and then when you went to try audition for that band, it was like fit right in.
Yeah,
so,
it was perfect right from the start.
Because of your hard work.
And you can't have a Dead band without a keyboardist.
No,
right?
No.
And we're not totally a Dead band, but we do play some Dead songs. We play Help on the Way, Franklin's Tower, Shakedown. If it was up to me, we'd play more.
Yeah.
But there's not contention, but I love the Dead maybe too much.
Well, no, I mean, there's so many songs you could pick, Dead songs. That it could be a whole show of just Dead songs.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. You could do multiple nights of just
you
Dead songs.
100%.
100%.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
When did you first hear the Dead?
So it was through channel 23, Sirius XM.
Oh, the Grateful Dead channel?
Yeah. And so I always knew it was there because it was right below 24, 25, 26. It was like classic vinyl, classic rewind.
Yeah.
And I never really gave it its due. And at this point I was already, you know, I like Zeppelin, I like Pink Floyd, I like the Allman Brothers, a big Allman Brothers fan.
Yeah.
And but you know, I felt like I'd heard a lot of the stuff, and I was like, all right, you know what? Everyone is always hyping up the Grateful Dead this. So I'm like, all right, let me just put on 23. And so I'm listening to it. I'm like, all right, you know, some of these recordings are kind of like, they're older. Like, I don't know if the quality is the best. And I'm like, you know, I give it a shot a little bit. Okay, go back to the regular stuff. And a couple weeks later, all right, let me put it back on. Let me just see how it is. And I was like, you know what? Actually, I was starting to come around to it. I'm like, man, I wish I could go see these guys. And then all of a sudden, they play one. Dead and Company comes on instead, and I'm like, well, this is different. And I'm like, I started looking it up. I'm like, holy shit, these guys are touring now.
Yeah.
Like, I could actually go see this band.
Yeah.
So I text my buddy Zach, he's not ahead either. He's not gotten into jam music. We just both like music. And I'm like, yo, dude, this show is going to be in Boulder, like over 4th of July weekend, 2019. I'm like, would you be interested in going? And he goes, dude, I have an aunt, uncle that live in Boulder. We could just go stay with them. It's going to be perfect. So we fly out there. We have no idea what's even going on. O'Teal was on the plane with us.
No
way.
way.
We didn't even,
well, he lives in Boca.
Yeah,
yeah.
And we didn't even know.
Oh my goodness.
And we're sitting there at baggage claim, and we're like asking other people. They're like, yo, are you going to the Dead show? And they're like, everyone on this plane is going to the Dead show. Like, look around. Everyone's in tie-dye.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that does make sense. He's like, actually, that's a bass player over there. We're like, no way. He's got his kid on his shoulders. Like, you know, he's just,
cool.
You know,
that's
so
awesome.
Was it at Red Rocks?
No, it was at Folsom Field.
Okay.
And so we go. I didn't even know when we bought the tickets, but it was the final show of the tour. And we just got an absolute scorcher set list, and of which the only song I knew ahead of time was Scarlet Begonias.
Yeah.
And
which is one of the best songs.
It is one of the best songs. And then ever since you know, I got back and I was like, dude, I can't stop thinking about it. We got
Yeah.
Loser, Eyes of the World, Not Fade Away, like all these just songs
Nice.
that are some of my favorite songs now.
Yeah.
And me and Zach, we dove like, you know, into the music, and we couldn't stop listening to it. And then that's ultimately how I got introduced to Goose also, because Goose played at this Playing in the Sand in 2021 or 2 as like the pool party band. Which was, but so yeah, ever since now I've seen Dead and Company probably 6 or 7 times. I saw it once with my dad at Wrigley Field. My dad's not ahead at all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I saw them at the Sphere last year.
Oh, nice.
How was that? Because when I see it, like on social media or whatever, it looks like I feel like I would get dizzy.
I did for 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've changed the visuals like for this year, but when they started out, it was like that Height Street like house, and then it like backs up and then like zooms you out from the earth until you like get to space, and then that's when they start doing all the cool visuals and stuff.
Yeah.
But like in that first moment, I'm like standing up trying to dance, and like I'm getting like zoomed out backwards, and I was like, whoa, what the hell?
You lose your freedom of reference, I think. Yeah.
And so I was like, I didn't have to sit down, but I had to grab the chair, and I was like, this is strange. And then, you know, then the whole rest of it, like it was fine. It maybe a little bit disorienting at times, but not like that.
Right.
And then at the end, they zoomed you back in, but the zooming in was fine. It was just the zooming out that was crazy.
Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So when you first went to the Dead and Company show, did you know anything about the culture? Did you know about the Shakedown Street parking lot scene?
No. The only thing I knew was I was reading like, oh, going to my first Dead show, like what should I expect? And like I read some cynic on the internet. I don't even know how I found this dude's article, and he's like, I don't know why anyone would want to go see the Dead. It sounds like someone tuning a guitar for 3 hours. And I was like,
oh my God.
Well, yeah. I was like, all right, well, whatever. So then I'm like, all right, yeah, forget it. We'll just go and we'll have a good time.
Yeah.
And we sat in the way back, like probably the furthest seats you could have. I was blocked by a field goal post.
Oh my
god! But
gosh.
I remember just listening to the music and just being like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, I wanted to ask you guys, you know, how did you get? I mean, you have, what is this, 150 to 100 tapes here?
Yeah, it probably about 100 to 200. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you get introduced?
For me,
you go first.
Funny thing is, actually, when I first heard the Dead, I didn't like them. I was like, turn this off. I don't like this. And then slowly got into it. It was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I saw my first Dead show in 1986 at Giant Stadium. And, you know, you go to your first show, and if you're into it, and you're hooked.
Mm-hmm.
So I rolled into Giant Stadium as a 15-year-old kid, and we pull into the parking lot, and there's like big boats. People towed their boats, and they're partying in their boats.
Wow.
People are pushing people around in dumpsters and partying, and just the shakedown scene. And then, and it was with Dead and the Dylan. So Bob Dylan played with Grateful Dead.
Dylan
it was
Dead.
in the summer. Dylan and the Dead. And then, you know, it just kind of happens.
Sure.
You know, it just be kind of, because, you know, when I was in high school, I played sports. I was into 3 sports, but then you discover the Grateful Dead, and it's this, it just fits.
It's life changing.
Yeah. So how many shows would you say that you've been to?
We've been to over 100, I would say.
Yeah, well, you know, just the Dead and Garcia, probably around 75 to 80.
That's incredible.
Then you start tagging on I took Nathan to see Further.
Sure.
Down in what's that little place
Miami.
by Bayfront?
Bayfront.
He was a young kid actually.
Yeah.
So we've seen Bayfront.
We've seen like Bobby's band.
Bob
He has his
Weir.
own
the Wolf
band.
Bros?
The
Yeah,
Wolf
and then
Brothers.
Bobby on his own. And
Rat,
then,
we've been to
Dog.
Rat Dog.
Rat
And that's
Dog.
where
Yeah.
Jeff, the keyboard player.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him. Are you?
I'm a huge fan. I think he's amazing.
He's amazing, right?
Yeah, like the way that he plays, because like I think a lot of musicians they get accustomed to the way that they like to play, and sometimes your ear starts to think like, oh, he's gonna go here next because that's like how my ear's been trained based off my own style, my own influences. His playing in particular never ceases to break that routine for me, because the creativity and the way he approaches it, he's gonna go here, but he goes there instead, and I would have never seen it coming. So I think my first impression of him was like, oh, this guy's good, but like, you know, whatever. There's better keyboard players out there. But as I listen, and especially over the last, I mean, that was 2019, and now we're in 2025, so it's like 6 years of them continuing to play together, and this guy's chops are just off the rails, and that's on the piano. Not even to mention once he gets on the B3.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I think the first time I saw him was with Rat Dog, and it might have been here in Meisner Park. And I was like, this guy's pretty good. And then we saw him with Further, and then you see him with Dead and Company. And then just watching him on YouTube and other things. I don't know if there's a better keyboardist right now that I can think of from an improv perspective of kind of like you're saying. I think he could play with anybody.
I'm sure he could play with anyone.
Yeah.
There's another guy in the scene too that I think has also been a really big influence, and that's Marco Benevento from J-Rad.
100%.
He's
phenomenal too. Yeah, J-Rad's awesome.
He's incredible. And some of the things that he does on the keys makes me feel like he's got 4 arms or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Have you listened to, my first show was Autzen Stadium in Oregon.
Oh,
because I'm from Oregon.
Yeah.
So my experience, or at the same time frame and everything, my experience with it was life-changing. I think with the Dead, when everyone first hears it, it's more like, what? And it's that reaction of, I don't understand this. And then it helps to go see them live. And then obviously once Jerry died, that became almost impossible. But then, you know, with Further and with Dead and Company, it offers that experience for younger generations. So I am so grateful for that, because you can listen to it and listen to it and listen to it. But until you have a live experience, that's what really solidifies understanding all of it, the culture of it. Because there's a culture too. And it's a culture that once you're a Deadhead, it becomes a part of your life. And it never leaves you. It's like in your blood, and it's hard to explain. And there's a saying for Deadheads: we are everywhere, and we are everywhere, of all ages. And I know Brian and I, when we go to different, because we'll go see cover bands too, and I love seeing people your age there. I love it. Like it gives me such hope. I love it.
It doesn't work as well for me though. Like I love that Dead and Company's going for you guys, but for me, they're just a cover band. Because we got to see Jerry live.
How you guys feel about it.
And I don't want to sound like a dick, right? Because that can come across as dicky, but it's like the Allman Brothers without Greg Allman. They're no longer the Allman Brothers. The Grateful Dead without Jerry's no longer the Dead. So it's hard, but
I like Dead and Company.
Yeah,
I enjoy it because it was pretty.
I'd rather see J-Rad though.
It's so many members.
Different.
Yeah. But it's so many members still. Well, with Billy and Mickey and Bobby there, you still have so many members of the Dead. It isn't. I don't view them as a cover band at all. I know Brian does. We differ in that. So I still think it still is going strong. The whole culture of it. But you know, we've passed on the Dead to our kids. Nathan is a big Deadhead.
No, and that's how I knew. How I knew to talk. So Nate and I had even gone to see a couple, like Unlimited Devotion was doing it. Uncle Mike's one time, and we went. But to what you were saying about them being a cover band, you know, for me, I think the perception is a little different, just because I was born 96. I never would have had the opportunity. So I'm grateful that the music is out there being played at such a high level by such talented musicians, and just the nature of that style of music being so improvisational. I mean, they played 250 nights a year for 50 years or something like that. And there's
a t-shirt that tells you all about it.
And no two recordings are the same. So even though it's different nowadays, it would have been different anyways. So
you're right.
Just that's how I view it. And so then if it's J-Rad, if it's Dead and Company, if it's Crazy Fingers at Fish Depot, or the Biscuit, or Unlimited Devote, like I'm just happy to be able to be, like you said, a part of the scene and hear this music that takes you on such a journey.
It's the magic. It's the music never stopping. And that's what I love about it, is the music is not stopping. And that to me is more important than who's playing it. Because when we're all there together dancing, the energy is the same. I'm one of those that are dancing.
Oh, me too.
And the energy is the same for me as when I was at a show. So I can tell you that. When I am at one of those, whatever it was, Dead and Company or anything, and when I'm hearing the music, it's the same energy, it's the same vibe, it's the same magic. So you are experiencing what we experience. It's just that we were fortunate to experience with Jerry.
Yes.
So, but you're still having that same experience. I can tell you that because I have the same experience, and I've seen you, Brian. You're dancing too.
Yeah, I think the difference. I'm pondering it because
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting thing. If I think of maybe 3 bands I really, really like would be the Dead, the Allman Brothers, and Billy Strings.
Sure.
And obviously can't have the Dead or the Allman Brothers anymore. What I really like about Billy Strings is as I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, when they end a song, I'm like, all right, what's next? And it's more like, what's next?
Yeah.
I want to see where this goes. I don't have that same vibe when like Dead and Company. You do to a point, but I don't know. It's just different. And I don't mean to shit on them. It's an amazing thing. They're still going. I think people shit on Mayer unnecessarily, unfairly.
Oh, yeah.
He's a phenomenal guitarist. He's a phenomenal vocalist.
Yes.
He can go.
Yeah.
You know, but Bobby's older. Mickey and Billy are older. So it's just different. But for you guys, it's Nathan loves it. You know,
I think that's one of the things that makes it great to have the options though, because like they get critiqued all the time for the tempo.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
yes.
Totally there's merit to it. You know, they still get there and they have these amazing jams, but if you want more upbeat, you can see J-Rad.
Yes.
Because they're pushing the tempo the whole time. And actually to what you just said, like when Dead & Co wraps up songs, you're not like, what's next? What's next? But I do get that when I see J-Rad. And they'll do these ambient transitions, you know, much like the Dead used to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, they're gonna start Terrapin, or maybe they don't. Maybe they go somewhere else completely different.
Yeah.
And I love having that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that keeps it so interesting, and that's why the shows never get old, because they keep you on your toes.
It's my favorite part, but I'm like that even at Crazy Fingers.
Same.
I'm like, and I listen.
They're awesome though.
They are awesome, but I'm one of those even when I first started where I listen at the end of the song to hear what they're going into, because they do tell you. And so I can usually name it even before he does. And I'm always telling Nathan when I'm with him for Crazy Fingers, and he'll be like, how did you know that? But I focus so much on that. I think that's one of the best parts is what are they going into next? I love that.
100% with you.
Well, I think you just touched on a good point. So they're playing with the tempo, and I think it's cool. And I think Bob Weir reserves the ultimate right to revisit this music because it's his, right?
Yep.
He's a pivotal piece of it all. But I'm not into that tempo play. And it just is what it is. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a dick. I'm not shitting on them. I think it's awesome that Weir is still alive, still doing this. He's playing with the music. He's revisiting it. I'd rather listen to Billy Strings.
Well, there's an authenticity too about that music too with Billy, because it's being created now and it is new.
Yeah.
And you probably like that feeling that you got watching Jerry do his thing.
You just, you're nailing it.
The nostalgic kind of feeling, you're tapping into that by watching Billy do it for the first time.
Yeah.
Yes, you just nailed it. I think that Billy gives him the feeling he used to have going to see the Dead, the original
Which is a
Dead.
massive compliment to Billy and his musicianship and what he's doing.
He's I find him completely amazing. I get goosebumps thinking about it because it's just so good. It's so agreeable, right? It just fits.
So I haven't seen him yet, but he's on my list.
You should see him.
He'll be in St. Augustine. What is it? April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th. But then he's going to Tampa April 9th.
Yeah.
We're still on the fence to make a road trip over.
Maybe I'll go. I have a good buddy who's a fellow musician also that lives out there in Tampa. So
funny story. We flew up to Penn State University last summer to see Billy for August 2nd and August 3rd. And we're hanging out in the PSU campus at the Starbucks. It's raining, so we hopped in to get, and there's Billy.
No way.
Yeah, so I see Billy and I start yelling to her. I go full-blown fucking fanboy mode. I have no cool about me, right? And I'm like, Nicole, hurry. She's like, huh? I'm like, just hurry. And then we see him, and he's the nicest, kindest,
so humble,
such good energy guy. You know, you just meet someone that's just like, this guy's energy is is right.
Definitely.
But I'm in full blown fanboy mode. I'm still embarrassed by it.
Oh, you were fine.
Uh,
You were fine. But no, he's what you would have hoped he would be
No,
when you
that's
meet him.
amazing to
So,
hear.
but when
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
in live Billy Strings, the way he is how he was at Dead Show. So I do see the difference.
yeah.
As are you. But
I'm a little kid again.
you are. But we've never seen J-Rad.
Oh, if they come
Yeah.
around, you
Oh,
guys-
we're going.
Yeah.
I really want to see them, but they did come down to Meisner years ago, but I don't think they've been here since.
Really? I
Like when
would
you
love
guys
to
were in
see
high
them.
school, I think they were at Meisner.
You know what
Yeah.
I do actually? I don't know. You've heard of nugs.net, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I have a nugs.net subscription.
Yeah, same.
So so I watch all these guys. I've
Mhm.
seen Goose, watch Billy,
Mhm.
J-Rad. There's some really good bands actually out there.
Yeah, definitely. Even so, there's some local bands that we kind of run in similar scene as. Like so there's one band local called Guavatron. It's really cool. I don't know if you guys ever seen
Mm-mm.
Guavatron.
No.
They for a while were doing this thing. It's like a local like jam night at a warehouse called the Arts Warehouse in West Palm Beach. And so some of our guys went up, and I was fortunate to sit in and play with them on the keys. And then there's another band that's from South Florida called Tanned. And Tanned there's another band that they're not, they kind of evolved into Tanned kind of, called the Heavy Pets. I don't know, they're another like local
That
to
sounds
South
familiar.
Florida jam.
Yeah.
The Heavy Pets in particular had a keyboard player. His name is Jim Worst. He still plays around here, and he is a monster on the keys. Really one of the most tasteful kind of lead lines that you can hear around town. I've seen him in a couple different places. But yeah, those are some bands that kind of grew out of down here and have really spread their wings and done well for themselves.
And they're jam bands?
They're jam bands, and you can find Tanned, you can find Guavatron on Nugs.
Okay.
okay,
No,
cool.
we'll have to check those out. Check them out for sure. Real quick, as a keyboardist, have you listened to the different eras of the Dead with the different keyboardists?
So when you said 86 was your first show, I was thinking, okay, these are Brent years.
Brent
Yep,
years, yeah.
Definitely. And so,
do you have opinion? Have you listened to Pigpen's years and to Donna and
I like the Donna stuff. I know she divides opinion, but especially
I like Donna.
Beat It On Down the Line with Donna, the harmonies is just like, that's if I'm driving around and I just like I love it.
Yeah. And Keith.
You know what we'll have to do some nights. So what we've done is I can plug my cassette player into this.
Sure.
And we'll sit in here, we'll have some drinks and just chill and listen to some bootlegs.
Oh, that'd be
Him and
amazing.
Nathan do
It's
it.
fun.
And then they talk about the show.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Yeah,
with you
yeah,
guys.
for
Oh,
sure.
we get some good conversation on that.
Yeah, I could do a
it's
whole
fun
episode
stuff.
on that. But what's your opinion on, have you listened to Keith and Pigpen and Brent?
Sure. I like the Keith stuff because it's simple and he doesn't like. Brent is another lead player.
Yeah.
Or he can be, which I really like that. Sometimes I'm in the mood for it though. Sometimes I'm not.
Yeah.
I think the Keith stuff is digestible always. And I really like the Hornsby stuff when he would sit in.
Yeah.
Because he was just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Of course.
I had a special show actually shortly after Brent died. They, people are like, is it over? And it's like, it's not over.
Mm-hmm.
And so their first show after that summer was in Philadelphia. It was at the Philly Spectrum. I got tickets and went down. And it was Bruce with Vince Welnick.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable to have both of them playing at the same time. I don't know if it was the first show or not. I think it was. But to hear both of them, and they opened the second set with a Scarlet Fire, and the whole place was moving. It was almost like, oh, shit.
We're back.
People are going to handle this.
Yeah. I saw them
Really
both too
cool.
right after Brent died, but I can't remember what venue. It was on the West Coast. I don't know if it was Autzen or if it was Cal Expo or Shoreline
Oakland or something.
or Oakland, but I also saw both of them together because they had big shoes to fill, so they brought two of them in to kind of help with the transition.
Brent was such a loud, personality from a musical. I'm sure he was, as an individual too, but from a musical perspective, he definitely has a big footprint.
It was a huge loss for us heads during that time. That was our keyboardist, and it was like a huge transition. So
it was terrible.
It was, but each of them, and then Pigpen has his own.
Have you ever heard Pigpen
Yeah,
stuff?
I've heard the Pig stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really love when he does like he's a really good vocalist too.
Yes.
As good as he is as a keyboard player and an organist. Maybe he doesn't get the credit. Maybe he does. You guys are more, you were there, not there. You're more in the part of the community at the time.
Right.
And I love when he does like on Good Lovin', he's
Yes.
or like Turn On Your Love Light, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like you just don't get that. Like I heard Bobby like try and do it at, you know, and it's like you're not gonna get that,
they
like,
call them pig rants.
Pig rant. I never heard that.
So one of the best pig rants is from Princeton, Dylan Jim, Princeton, New Jersey, like 1971.
Oh, sure.
And it's like a half an hour rant. It's a good lovin'. It's crazy.
It's because he was, you know, he's sharing his tortured soul during that. And if Bobby can't replicate that, that's coming from like his demons, you know.
I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear that one for sure.
You'll have to send that to him. All right, so bringing us back. That was our
I do have more questions, but
about the dead.
No. One question, I'll throw it out there. You don't have to answer now, but I am curious because I think I love the keyboardists. I love Brent. I love Keith. I love Greg Allman, Elton John, right? Billy Joel, and Chimenti. I think that's how you say it. Chimenti, yeah. So my question is, how do you make the leap from playing recitals in 6th grade on a classical piano to getting into rock, being a rock musician, playing keyboards and organs and stuff like that? I would ask these guys the same question.
Yeah, no, sure. The truth of the matter is that I never wanted to play classical, really. It was just like kind of the necessary evil to kind of, you know, cut your teeth and get the technique down. And so I remember Billy Joel song, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant, you know, long, beautiful song, but there's that piano solo. And my parents, again, bless them, when I was trying to learn that part, I mean, 2 weeks straight, every day I'd come home from school, I'd take my phone out, I'd put it next to me, I'd hit record, fuck, stop, restart, re-record, and just for hours every day to get that lick. And it was like I knew that I wanted to play more along that style of music. And then to your question about like, okay, then how do you get, because that's not, it's rock, but it's not the same like type of rock. And that I just, you know, I liked Pink Floyd, I liked the Allman Brothers, you know, and I never paid that much attention even to the keys in rock music, which maybe sounds kind of crazy. I was always, because part of me still had that Guitar Hero kid inside of me. And I was just dialed into the guitar, even though I was, you know, playing my own. And I was playing more like, you know, popular stuff, whatever, like for the band, like the Stone Keys band, you know, we played a variety of stuff. We played Mayer tunes and whatnot, you know, like things that sorority girls and people in college wanted to hear. So we weren't like, even though we could jam, we weren't like a jam band by any means. I think that exposure to the Dead, and then more to the Allman Brothers too, starting to listen, like, all right, and Little Feat. I love Little Feat. Buddy's dad, Bobby's dad, turned me on to Little Feat. He's like, he was telling me, you gotta play Dixie Chicken. You gotta play Dixie Chicken.
I love that song. I saw them open for the Dead.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. I bet that was an incredible show. Do you remember when that was?
It was 80.
It was either 87 or 88.
Yeah. So I saw Little Feat play at this little theater in Fort Lauderdale, the Parker, and it must have been like, you know, 2 years ago, and I was stunned. These guys are all older now. They get up on stage, and I'm looking at them like, you know, how's it gonna be? And I sat there. I was fortunate because I was in the back right next to the soundboard, and everyone else was sitting, but I was in the very last row. So I stood the whole time, and I'm telling you, it's been a long time since I've seen a show where I literally was like, the whole time.
They jam.
I couldn't believe it. And their keyboard player, you know, I made the joke about Marco earlier having 4 arms. This guy probably had 8 arms. The things that he was doing. So
no, they're awesome. They're awesome.
But that type of exposure, thing like, all right, well, you know, I want to play music like that. And, you know, I always kind of like to improvise, but it was that exposure to the extended jams that you get from the Dead in particular too. And just hearing that and being like, I want to try and do that. And then the Ruminators, when I played with them, we were, for all intents and purposes, a garage band that would play out periodically. I think I probably played like 2, maybe 3 gigs with them. One of them was a wedding, which was a fun story. But we would play, and they were so good and so intentional about saying like, all right, we're in this song, it's solo time, and each person in the band.
They'd pass it around.
Here you go. But it wasn't like, all right, take a little solo and go. It was like, however much time you need to build and execute your idea,
That's cool.
Here's the floor.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
And because we weren't playing for other people, you know, we were just playing for ourselves mostly. And like I said, they had a good setup. We could record everything. And then I would go back and I would listen and I was like, oh, wow, that was a cool idea that I did. Or, I would have not done that this time. And then and now at this point, I got myself a Yamaha, it's called a CP88 keyboard. It's nice. Weighted keys, feels like a real grand piano. And it had some other sounds on it too, like the electric keyboard, stuff that like Stevie Wonder would play. And then it's got the claves and then it had an organ tone.
That's so
and
cool.
so I'd start to experiment. I'm like, all right, well, my organ tone's not right. Well, I need to get an expression pedal so I can toggle the Hammond on and off or the Leslie on and off. So now I'm experimenting with these different sounds. And thank God, you know, I'd say they had the patience to let me do that, but it's not even about patience because that's just the style of music. And that's where they came from. So they would have been doing that even if I was there or not. And I think that they really liked having me as like the young gun.
For sure. There's no question.
And I really loved playing with them. And, you know, they have a new guy that's playing keys with them now because it's just too much for me to keep up with the multiple bands. But I mean, I love those guys and they're all super, super talented musicians. Rich is like 70 and he's out there still ripping it.
That's awesome.
So, you know, I think but that to answer your question, them giving me the floor to do that. And now I go play with 59 Shop and it's much more, they don't give you that much of a window. We don't give each other quite that much of a window. So I have to be a little bit more concise and sometimes louder because we also play a little more upbeat and like the other dynamically, Ruminators are bringing it way down. Like, okay, you can start your idea at almost nothing. And then build up to now we're all in it together. So it's different, like the amount of time that we have, but that was where I got the inspiration for it.
Well, you know, quick side note, check out, I think it's 1990 or 91. Buffalo show. Jerry and Brent go back and forth.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
It's really cool. It's on YouTube. Look up like Grateful Dead Buffalo. I think it's 1990 or something.
Okay.
My favorite is watching them look at each other.
I need that, and then I need the Pigpen 71 show.
You have to hook him up. How do you know when you're doing that individual, each member? And I've always wondered this even with the Dead. So if everyone's doing their thing, how does the band know when that person is done and it's time to move on to the next transition? Because it's always so seamless. And I'm like, how did they all know?
Yeah, I think most of the time it's like a series of orchestrated, like, head nods and eyebrow raises.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
But, so with the Ruminators, I was telling you guys we played this wedding and the bride really wanted In Memory of Elizabeth Reed. That was what she wanted.
I love that.
And
song.
then, you know,
pull the mic a little bit closer.
Had you ever played it before?
No. So we put some time in on that one to make sure that we got it dialed in. And then another one that they wanted was Judy Blue Eyes, like like the suite.
CSNY.
Yes, that one took a lot of time to dial in. And actually, I didn't do as much on that one. They had some extra practices to dial in the harmonies for that one. I didn't really sing for that. But anyways, in Elizabeth Reed, there's like the dun 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 dun, and like there's a series of like cues musically that tell you like, oh, this solo's over or it's about to start, and then that'll help us. You know, they're like there's one part distinctly where the guitar solo, like I'm like, oh, that was his closing lick. I'm up now.
Okay.
So sometimes that's baked in. And then even with 59 Shop, like we rehearse these things. So you like we'll tell each other in advance, like this is going to like we're going to make this transition, be ready for it. And then, you know, we're all kind of looking around, listening, and sometimes you get, you know, 3 out of 5 people that are on it, but as long as you got bass, drums, and like one other rhythm instrument, normally like everyone else would be like, oh shit, yeah, that was the cue. Like we're there. I mean, we're pretty tight. Like we definitely put the practice in to rehearse, but yeah, especially with jam bands, a lot of it seems just kind of like it's being done on a whim or on the fly, but the hours that these people put in and
they just
the
know.
And the chemistry.
And the chemistry, or they do the signal, like I'm done.
Oh, and,
you know,
and on the stage of like Goose, for example, these guys have talkback mics. So they'll have their vocal mic, they'll have another mic over here, and they come over and they're like, we're going to the B part. You know,
Okay.
and we can't hear that, but they can all hear that in their own ears. So
I think all of them have that. I know Billy Strings has that. He
Yeah.
has a mic behind him. That's a talkback mic.
I think that when we saw Bass Nectar like last month, he was talking to his crew in one of those.
Probably.
He kept picking up a mic, and I'm like, how come we can't hear him?
It's very
Yeah.
high
And it was
tech
explained-
nowadays.
Oh, sure.
It's because that was okay. So we'll go back to you're playing with the Ruminators,
Mhm.
and you're still working for Bobby's dad.
Yeah.
And then how long did you continue on those paths?
So the Ruminators, even while I was still playing with 59 Shop, I kept playing with them for some time. And then just a combination of life, and I took this time off, and I was my little gap year.
Oh, that's right. You had
3
taken the
months.
time off. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So I had done that, and I was playing music. I traveled. I actually did a couple weeks in Europe with some of my buddies from college.
Nice.
And then when I got back, I had it all set. So I got back from Europe on July 29th or 30th, and I started at my new job, which was in tech sales. I really wanted to get into tech with a company called Citrix. They're a global company, but they're based in Fort Lauderdale. You're in IT, aren't you?
Yeah. I know Citrix.
Okay, yeah. So I started with them August 1st. So I had it all planned out.
Yeah.
And then August 12th, I met a girl, and we really hit it off. I ended up dating for like 2.5 years almost.
Wow.
But all of these things, I'm moving. I was with my parents when I first got back from Europe, and like all these things were going on at the same time.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, something's gotta give. And unfortunately, it was the Ruminators at that point. And then even still after that, I got together and I played with the wedding for them, which was not until like December of 22. So like the timelines, they just all a lot of things kind of converged at once, and that's why I stopped playing with them and focused more with just 59 Shop.
So 59 Shop was your next band after the Ruminators.
That was the one that I met at Third and Third, where they called me.
Okay.
And I had the audition, and those are the guys that I've been playing with since. And then they're all so talented. And I gotta especially shout out Steve, our drummer. Steve is an amazing drummer. He's an incredible bass player. He's a great songwriter. And he plays bass in more bands than he plays drums in. Actually, 59 Shop is the only band that he plays drums in.
Interesting.
And so we have like another band offshoot that is a wedding band. We just played our first wedding. It was at the start of March 1st, and we're learning like Earth, Wind, and Fire, ABBA, Journey.
Yes.
Like, so if you guys know anyone that's getting married soon and needs a wedding band.
What's the name of the wedding band?
Yeah, that band is called The Pleasures.
The Pleasures.
Call for a good time.
I love it. That's great. And so is that the same members as 59 Shop?
So it's Steve, our drummer, is playing the bass, and then it's a couple. So Steve teaches at School of Rock. And, in Boca. He teaches every instrument. So like if anyone's listening to this that is a kid that needs lessons, go see Steve at School of Rock.
Okay.
I wish sometimes that I could be like 12 taking lessons from Steve, because he just loves it so much.
He's one of those guys.
He's just he bleeds it through and through. But so the wedding band, and then there's another band that Steve and I play in. This is really Steve and his other friend, or our mutual friend Garrett's brainchild, and it's called Wrasse, WRASSE, which is a type of fish.
Like a fish, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that is a tropical punk band, which is very interesting.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, you should check them out too. That's called Wrasse Band. Steve and Garrett just released a song called Nowhere to Go, which is actually about like the government and how they're trying to get rid of Florida's like natural wildlife and things like that. So it's kind of like a punk rebel song, but but also very well written and orchestrated. And these guys are just
cool.
They're wizards. So
is all their stuff up on like Apple Music, Spotify?
Yeah, so
all that.
Check that out as well.
And we'll link everything in the description.
Yeah, send us back links.
We'll link everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's so cool. So wait, you're in 3 bands right now?
Some of them I just show up and play, which is good. But 59 Shop is the main one. That's the baby. And, we were talking before we got started, maybe it seems like we took a little bit of a hiatus from playing gigs. And we did actually play New Year's Eve, and then we didn't play until start of March for actually Bobby, a different Bobby, which I got to talk about him, and I will get to him in a minute, because he's another amazing, beautiful human too, and great musician. but it was his birthday, so we played Banana Boat up here in Boynton.
Yep.
And then we've got another show coming up on the 19th of April at Guanabanas in Jupiter, which is a pretty cool venue if you guys haven't been. But we've been focusing more on writing original music, and this is of the bands. Well, I guess Ras is originals, but I'm not involved in the writing process.
Right.
That's Garrett. He does most of the work. But with 59 Shop, that's where we've been really collaborating and trying to come up with something. Because the one thing that makes the band special and unique is that every person comes from a very different musical background, except like maybe me and Bobby. Bobby's ahead also, so him and I kind of have.
Is he the guitarist with the dead shirt on in some of those videos?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That would be him.
Yeah.
And then you see our other guitar player.
Yeah.
His name is we call him Slick Rick. I think we'll go by Slick Rick, and he is just one of the best guitar players I've ever had the pleasure of playing with. But he comes from more of like a heavier or like a metal background.
Okay.
And sometimes you can hear that come through in the playing. But then you've got Steve, who is kind of this jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife musically, and then my friend Mitchell, who's one of my best friends, and he's a really good bass player, but he really is a bass head. So
interesting.
Yeah, and him and I used to go to electronic shows and stuff together too.
Okay.
So we have that in common as well. And that's another thing Nate and I share in common.
Yeah.
So
What
do you,
is?
okay.
You want to go?
I was gonna say, do you all participate in songwriting?
So the songwriting process, it is dynamic, I think is probably the best way to say it. You will at times have all five of us just kind of stumble on a groove and be like, whoa, that has to be something. And then, maybe we'll collab on lyrics or something like that. But what we found is it works best with like 2 or 3 or even one person. When you have all 5, it's like too many cooks in the kitchen type situation. So when we came back at the start of the year, like everyone makes resolutions in their own lives. We made resolutions as a band. All right, like what is our goal? Let's really commit to getting back to songwriting. And one of the ways that we did that was we said, if one person has an idea for a song, they're allowed to come in, and rather than it be like this whole super collaborative thing, be like, hey, this is my idea. You do this, you do that, you do this. Obviously, each musician is talented. And like, I mean, if I tell Steve, like, hey, I can't tell him I want you to do exactly what I want on the drums, but be like, hey, I want a disco beat. And he'll take his liberty with that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but really more like one person or 2 people are kind of like the musical director on the song. And I think most of it is coming from Bobby. And then a portion of it comes from me. And then Steve is a big influence too. And then Rick being the lead guitar player, he has his own influence on the music as well. And he comes up with cool different like lines and things like that we wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And then sometimes we'll tell him, we're like, Rick, at this part, go.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
Okay. That makes sense. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to ask.
Well, no, what's interesting is when Kaya was in a band, I used to go there and film and record for them. And it's very much the same type of process you're describing, where they had a guy, his name's Jamie. Jamie's a phenomenal local musician down here as well. And he was their musical director. And he'd be like, Nick, that guitar riff, you do that. Adam on the drums, you do this. I think it was Emily, your rhythm, you do this. And they kind of collaborated like that. It was cool. What you're describing.
Kind of delegating a little bit.
Yeah.
It like offers a little bit of control maybe in the chaos of songwriting.
Yeah.
It can be chaotic.
Yeah.
Where I struggle the most is writing lyrics too. So sometimes I'll be like, hey, yo, Bobby, I need words for this song.
Yeah.
Like this one is just not like, I don't know. Songwriting has always been, or the lyric writing has always been hard for me. But I'm more music minded. Maybe that comes from the jam side of things.
Yeah.
Jam bands, with the exception of the Dead, I'd say, are pretty notorious for having like shitty lyrics, I think.
Yeah,
not everybody had Robert Hunter.
Yeah, Robert Hunter and not just Hunter.
John Perry Barlow.
Yeah, John Perry Barlow. So that makes a huge difference. And they also covered a lot of Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Who's one of the best lyricists ever.
Absolutely.
Why our youngest son's named after him, by the way.
My question was 59 Shop. I was checking out your videos. Looks like you guys have a cool place to play.
Oh, the shop.
The shop itself, I guess. And I was going to ask what you're doing in terms of lyrics, but is that where you guys hang out and work?
Yeah, man. So the shop is like, I love the guys. I love the band. I would be lying if I didn't say that the shop itself wasn't like one of the coolest.
It's really cool. Yeah.
It is.
So, I want to go.
Where's it located?
It's in Boynton by the train tracks off Woolbright. And basically they got it before I even, was a part of the band. So they had it established. And, for all intents and purposes, it's like a big, like, air conditioned storage unit. But this complex at their end, like some people run like small little businesses, like auto detailing things out of them. So they're nice. It's not like you're in like a little, small like storage container or anything like that. But we've got couches, we've got the whole thing laid out. We got a really nice, we recently upgraded all of our gear so that it's more like this. We can record everything that we play like the Ruminators had.
Yep.
So we listen to it back. Some of our recordings that you'll see online are from that. In the back, there's like a little patio, it's a really, really cool spot. And
that's cool.
Aside from being where we'll go and we'll practice, sometimes more constructively than others, like last night, being a group of musicians, we all have other musical friends. So I want to say there's probably like 10, 12 people over there just drinking beers, and it's just a big communal jam. Like, people swap around on instruments, and like, keys are my main thing, but I could play a little bit of guitar, and I wouldn't play it at a show. And I could play enough bass to get by too. So we'll all swap around, and
that's cool.
we just, it's
how often are you going there and doing that? Would you say
we practice or write every Wednesday? That's been like our day for probably 2 years now.
And then you're performing. It sounds like you'll perform, but then you guys take breaks too.
For a while, we weren't really taking breaks. It's just been a little slower now. I mean, everyone in the band has their job too, so it's like very much this is the musical outlet that we all need.
Yes, it's excellent that you have that. 100%. Like for us, I think when we go see live music, for us that's our outlet. But you have such a passion for music. It's. I was just going to ask you, like, how do you balance that passion for music and then working your tech job, which I assume you enjoy that as well?
I love it. So yeah, no, I feel in general just very blessed and so grateful for all the opportunities that I've had, and for the struggles too. But now that I have the chance to have a group of musical friends and a band that we all care about each other, we all respect each other, and we're all just kind. We really love each other. We're friends too. It's not like I played with other bands where it's like, all right, we're in, we're out. And that's,
you want to have fun.
Of course, we're all entertainers, we're performers.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, in my professional life, I'm working at it's a tech startup, and we collectively are doing super well, but the company has raised over $300 million now.
Wow.
We're partnered with the Heat, with the Panthers, with Chicago Bulls, and I was in sales for a while, for about 1.5 years, and then I got promoted to being a manager. So I have a team now, and
nice.
I love that. Because every day it's not about me anymore like it was when I was a rep. I'm just working to get other people on the team better and help them, achieve their goals. And
what do you guys do? What is the
so the idea is like a one-stop shop, all-in-one platform for small business needs for the back office. So main product is we have like automated bookkeeping and accounting, and then we also have our corporate card, which is, I don't know, I'll plug Finally real quick.
Yeah.
It's software as a service.
Yes, we're a SaaS company. But so like the Finally card.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you actually have a card.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to see, but it's so we lend money to small businesses to help them grow, and then there's some nifty software on the back.
That is cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Some software on the back that helps to like help them manage their expenses, pay less in taxes, to save a lot of time. So that's where we're partnering with the Heat, with the Panthers, and then there's other products coming down the pipeline too: payroll, global hiring. So it's like really one-stop shop. It's not like we're relying on one product.
So the company's called Finally?
Yeah, Finally, one place.
Okay. I like that.
Are you allowed to say where you're hosted? Are you in AWS, Azure, or GCP?
Well, we do the work through QuickBooks. The work is actually done through QuickBooks. So it's just an API integration that goes into our platform. Where they're actually hosting our data, I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, I do know. It's on an Amazon service.
Yeah, so AWS. Okay, yeah.
Because I had a prospect one time. He's like, well, I'm not going to work with you guys unless my data is being held domestically. Yeah. So
Finally, I like that.
Yeah,
that's the name of it. Finally.
That's a great name.
That is a great name.
So
how long have you been with Finally?
I've been with Finally since June of 2023.
Okay. So almost 2 years.
Yeah, I guess going on 2 years now.
So did you go from Citrix to Finally?
So the Citrix story is kind of an interesting one too. So I started there August 1st, 2022. September 30th, they announced that they were being delisted from the public market and been acquired by a private equity firm. And I was just started as an SDR in sales development, booking meetings for the closers, and I knew that I didn't want to do that very long. I was like, I want to actually sell. Like, I don't want to appointment. But that was what you had to do to get in. It was like the entry level.
Yeah.
And so everyone was kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, we got acquired. Where are we all going to get laid off? Nobody knows. There's so much uncertainty. So some people started leaving that were territory managers. And actually, at one point, we had like, team meeting where they were like, all right, all the SDRs, like, you guys go like polish your resumes because like it's not looking good. And people were freaking out, seriously freaking out. And me being driven, like, when I think, okay, this is something I want to do, I came up with a little plan I called Operation Stay on the Ship. And I was like, all right, this is how I'm going to figure out a way to not get laid off. And I networked my ass off. I sought out mentors from people that probably had no business even talking to me. Like one of the VPs, I was like, hey, like, Lindsay, can you help me? And a guy named Lee too, and another one of my bosses there, he saw that I was working hard and they put me into a closing role. And I had no experience. I didn't even know what a NetScaler was. I don't know if you and I worked, and I was the first person in the office and the last one to leave. And I ended up not getting laid off. 34 other people on the team, including the director, got all laid off. They did move me to a different product though, which was called... So
did you move from like Citrix to NetScaler then?
No, to ShareFile.
ShareFile, okay.
And ShareFile is like DocuSign meets Dropbox. It's like file collaboration and sharing an electronic signature, mostly for like CPA firms and attorneys.
But I mean, I think that shows your hard work and determination, and in some ways that positive intention, delusion, whatever, talking to people you think who might even talk to this person, but you went to them as a mentor, just like, why not? I think it shows that it pays off.
I had nothing to lose.
You had nothing to lose
at that point.
Yeah.
So, and they were, and I had one mentor named Mike, and Mike spent a lot of time with me. And here's a funny story about Mike. On every sales call that we were on, it didn't matter who the prospect was, he would always talk about barbecue. And he'd take 10 minutes at the start of the call talking about barbecue. Wait, what are you doing this weekend? Like, I don't know. Well, I'm going to cook up a whole mess of barbecue. And I'd be like slacking him. I'm like, yo, Mike, can we get to the pitch, man? And afterwards, one time he goes, hey, I'm like, why do you always talk about barbecue? And he says, because everyone loves barbecue. He just teaches me, slow it down, make the connection. Anyways, so.
Okay, wait. Do you watch The Office?
Yes.
So do you know what you just referenced is that Chili's episode?
Everyone loves Chili's.
Where Michael talks to the guy from Lackawanna School District about everything other than why they're there. And then it works it in at the end and he gets the deal.
And Jan is, her mind
and
is blown.
Jan's going crazy. Like, what are you doing? And they're just talking about ribs and singing baby back ribs.
You're so spot on.
And that's it.
And the reality is Chili's too, by the way.
I wish there was one in Boca still.
The reality is no one at work wants to talk about work.
No.
Especially with a salesperson.
And selling to IT teams too.
Yeah.
Because that's who we were selling to.
The last thing I want to talk about is IT.
Yeah.
I'll talk music, barbecue. I don't know about Chili's. But
No, but they were in a Chili's. And they were he was doing everything except selling.
Yeah. Yes.
And it worked.
The interesting thing about Citrix, I and we know various casualties from that whole
I believe it.
Citrix transition.
It's still going on.
It still is going on. They're very defunct right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I get moved over to this other product, ShareFile, and I was fighting my ass off. All right, I want to be in a closing role, and I finally get there. Okay, well, you're moving to ShareFile. Okay, great. What is my territory going to be like? Well, you're going to be a renewals sales rep. And I was like, renewals, I was crushed. I was like, revenue retention, like, God, that's the worst. But the benefit was it was a brand new team that never existed at ShareFile.
It had no numbers.
No numbers. And I got to be a part of basically founding this team. Almost like a startup, because ShareFile was a startup within the broader cloud software group. And then so I was within a startup team, within a startup org, within a very old, mature company. So it was really a unique opportunity to kind of cut my teeth and help build some of those systems and processes. And now I actually applied for a role, a closing role, which they told me basically, you're qualified. We think you would do great. We'd love to have you. You'd be an amazing culture fit, but you just got here 5 months ago, so get in line.
Yeah.
And like
Gosh.
one thing I learned about myself is, and then, even through, some of the struggles I mentioned before, is that like the thing that gives me anxiety is not feeling like I am in control of my situation, that like feeling of being in limbo.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole situation was just drenched in that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, well, at the meantime, I was applying to other places, like, all right, let me see what's going on.
Yeah.
And that was where I encountered finally. The CEO messaged me on LinkedIn, and I set up a call while I was driving home from Citrix that day. And at the time, they had just moved. So in Boca, just right here, there's that new El Camino they put in.
Yep.
That big black building right there is with offices.
Oh, okay.
And when I first got there, I met the CEO. He's working on a card table. There were monitors all over the ground. And he's like, do you want to be a part of building something? And I said, absolutely, I do. And then I met one of the other co-founders. His name's Edwin. He's a great guy, mentor to me, boss, and a friend as well. I couldn't ask for a better person to work for. When I met him, I said, did you write the script? He goes, I wrote the script. And I said, okay, I'll see you guys. And since then, just the opportunity to work directly with the co-founders, using some of the things that I learned from the ShareFile experience, building out teams, helping coach other people, train them. I mean, even before I got moved into a management position, I was already, helping mentor and coach and teach and there's another gentleman, Albert, too, who is one of the, he was the original salesperson. He's been selling for 28 years. He reminds me that, from time to time. He's also just an amazing dude, so humble, does everything to help other people. But learning from them and then taking the opportunity that they've given me just to help others. And what I was going to say about Mike before I got derailed on the barbecue thing was what he always told me was, I was like, Mike, what should I do to pay you back? And he goes, just pay it forward. Just pay it forward. And so, as I'm helping these younger reps who are getting hired, like, well, thank you so much. I said, no, just pay it forward, pay it forward, pay it forward.
Yeah.
It's such an excellent way for the older generations. They pass down to you, and now you're passing down to Gen Z, the younger generation. And it's so encouraging because so many times I hear from Gen Zs and younger millennials how disgruntled they are with boomers or with older Gen X, and that boomers especially come across as selfish and self-centered and disconnected from what the younger generations, their outlook on life. So to hear that, at least in your company, there's this beautiful connection across the generations.
Beautiful.
It's amazing. That's awesome.
And it's fortunate too that we've had the success that we've had so far. Of course, it's a startup. Like, something could go wrong tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, I never take it for granted, and every day is a blessing that I have. But we're hiring right now where a lot of places are not. So especially like entry level sales, like we need people, and the leadership and the management, they invest so much in giving us opportunity to grow and learn. Our CRO, he's kind of like a LinkedIn famous guy, and he's got over 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. Yeah, wow. His name is KD. He's Kevin Dorsey, but he goes by KD. And
why is he such a big personality?
Because he's scaled it's like 4 or 5 businesses to over 100 million in revenue now in a year from where they weren't doing that before.
Wow.
So he has a track record.
Yeah.
But he has this personality too. He always wears this black hat, and it's like that, like, it's just, that's him. And he's kind of like a sales, teaching, leadership, like, guru.
Yeah. Cool.
And we were fortunate, very fortunate to get him. And
that's awesome.
He's invested in our leadership team, and he took us through like a 6-week AI course, and he's got me in another one now. And
that's
the
great.
Things that I'm learning are things that I would have never got. And reflecting on my previous companies, never even had a chance to.
Yeah.
So
what are you learning in AI at a sales role?
Yeah. So there were a lot of different applications. Most of it was like, how do you use AI as a seller, like researching prospects and things like that. But because we had, 10 or 11 people in this probably, 40-person class. All of us were in leadership. So we were asking more questions like, all right, well, like, how could this be used for leadership applications? And one of the things that, I got an idea from for this was, let's create an AI call scoring bot. Basically, one of the hardest things for any sales manager to do, I've got 5 guys on my team right now. Each call is anywhere from, 20 minutes to an hour, sometimes even longer.
Jeez.
And I'm supposed to listen to these calls and prepare feedback. And how do I know where to coach? How do I know where to train? How do I do these things? So you copy and paste the call transcripts. AI goes through, and there's a lot of stuff on the back end that we had to write out and define. Okay, this is like what a good bucket question looks like. This is what it looks like to get agreement to actually.
So you're kind of writing the prompt or the script to drive the AI engine to help score
exactly
how the call went.
Exactly.
Based on that's cool.
Yeah. So
cool stuff.
Very cool.
It started with just our team, and then it got rolled out to other organizations, the card team within the company, and actually,
cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. So with this company, do they how do they view work-life balance? I'm assuming it must be pretty good because you have time to put towards your music.
We definitely work hard, I will say.
Yeah.
We work hard, but one of the principles of KD is, work and life are so intertwined. They both need to be going well for you to really be happy. Like, if you're not doing well outside of work, that'll affect your performance in work. And conversely, if you're not doing well in work, that's going to affect your life outside. Yeah. So they definitely care about us. Again, they're constantly teaching us. They take us to, there's a guy named Patrick Bet David who did an event, a big conference up in West Palm called The Vault in September. They took our entire company to go. It took us all off the phones for a couple of days. And, they want us to grow. They want us to develop. And I think that professional foundation and the confidence that, you get from being successful in a role will help everything else in life.
No, that's great that they recognize that, because, and I don't know if that's typical of startups. I feel like I've heard it is. Startups in general can
I've worked for startups, and you work your ass off.
Yeah.
It's
we definitely work hard, but it's worth it, and
it's fun
to feel like you're being a part of building something that is bigger than you could do individually. And like, my dad is an entrepreneur, so I have entrepreneurship aspirations, and I'm sure one day I will. I've had these sparks lately that I used to not get just from some of the things that I've been learning.
Right.
And so I know my day is coming, when exactly, I don't know, but just the foundation and what they do to help us get there and build the confidence to say, all right. And also, we're selling to small business owners. So I'm on the phone with them. I learn what they do well, what they do wrong. And, sometimes you're talking to a small business owner and you're like, man, I could definitely do what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
So,
well, what's interesting about your product, because I did look it up, and it is hosted, right? Software as a service. If you have the right idea, you're learning enough that if you have the right idea, you could find the right people to develop it, find the other people to run it, and you go sell it.
Yep.
And it's really that simple. And that's how the world is today. It's pretty wild. It's cool.
And that's why I'm fortunate to have background in sales, and that I very much can thank my dad for. He's a sales guru himself, and one of the best speakers that I've ever had a pleasure to even hear talk and learn from too.
Yeah.
The preparation, I told you, that's serious. I mean,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have such a great balance between your music and your work going right now. I do have to ask you, because you are a younger millennial, what is the dating scene like for your age? Like, with dating apps or being out there, how do you view it? Do you view it as challenging because there's dating apps and social media, or
he's a musician, so we might get a
that's
slanted
true.
answer
You probably
here.
have a different aspect of, like, what is your view at your age of being out there?
So I had been in a relationship for like 2.5 years, so I was like not actively in it. Before that relationship, I was on the dating apps, and I only ended up going out with people that I met in person. So I would match with people on dating apps. I would have conversations, and they never seemed to go anywhere. Since I've been single again, I've gone out on a couple dates from some of the apps. I pretty much only use Hinge. But like, I don't know, I've heard good and bad things about some of the other ones, but one of my best friends, Zach, and his wife, they have a baby. They have another one on the way. They met on Hinge.
Right.
Or they met on Tinder. And then, I don't know, like, I know there's a lot of success stories out there, so I'm definitely not going to knock it.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, who knows? Who knows? Maybe the person that I end up with, it will be met on a dating app. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
do you feel when you're out there, that women are approachable, or do you feel that technology has kind of stunted some of the communication between men and women your age?
You know, I'm like a pretty outgoing person, so I feel like I don't often like meet a stranger. You know, it's just like have the confidence to go and actually approach someone.
Yeah.
And I think people appreciate the old school approach anyways. And there's so many different ways. It's not like, oh, we'll just add me on Instagram. We can continue the conversation there. See if we like each other. Like, you know, it doesn't have to be so like, hey, you know, this Guller, like, what are you doing next Thursday? Like,
right.
I don't know. But I'm still figuring out my own approach and my own style. And being a musician, it doesn't hurt. Definitely it gives a good way to meet people. I of the guys in the band, at least 2 of them have met their girlfriends through music.
Yeah.
So
would you say advice to younger guys is to just go for it with the old school way, and that they might be pleasantly surprised that girls like to just be approached more traditionally as opposed to, you know, just through a DM?
I've had success and I've also experienced failure. So I don't know that there's one right way to do it, but I'd say you're limiting yourself if you're only going to stick to one method.
So utilize everything that's out there.
If you see someone and you think you'd like to go talk to them, you should do it.
Yeah. And what would be some advice to younger people that are just getting out of college as far as career, as far as trying to figure out what the 20s aren't easy? I always say that 20s have lots of peaks and valleys. And it can be very discouraging, and you can feel like you're out in the world and is this it? Is this life? And I don't know if I even want to do this. What would be some advice you would give?
So going back to the philosophical side of things, another thing that I always would say is just be a sponge and make that your mentality. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Good companies, bad companies, products you love, products you can't stand. There's something there that you can use and you'll learn from that's going to help you later in your career. Even opportunities when I was working for companies where I knew I didn't have a future there were still things that I was learning. And so that would be my mindset. I mean, first you have to do something, like, but you don't have to love what you're doing out of the gate. I mean, I jumped around, and I think everyone should. I think that is one thing that's different about the job market nowadays, is that most people don't work for the same company out of college. You work for them for 30 years, 40 years. And that's it. Like, don't be afraid to take a leap. Don't be afraid to, you know, make a change. Not everything is so permanent. Even in relationships too, like if it's not, if you don't have that feeling like, all right, I wake up every morning and I just want to run through a brick wall for this company or for that person. Like, I mean, you guys have been together. How long have you been together?
31 years. Together 33 years.
Yeah.
Married almost 31 years.
And
so
31 or 33 wonderful years.
Yes. And so you guys must feel that, you know, every day.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, you know, on the career front, in terms of that, you have to reinvent yourself. You know, I'm 53 years old, or 54, right?
You're 53.
53, yeah. The world's changed a lot.
Yeah.
And you've got to continue to reinvent yourself. I agree with you. You're spot on. Be a sponge, pay attention, keep your eye on the ball, work hard, play hard. And you don't have to like what you're doing all the time.
Right.
Now, if you can get there, then that's great. But if you can't, then things like music or hobbies can kind of help you get through when you're in the peak. Yeah.
I think it comes down to storytelling too. You know, every person has their own experiences and they're not always going to be good. Like even earlier, what I talked about with what happened, you know, through college, you know, I didn't know how to tell that story. In my career, you know, I had struggles. I worked for a company I knew I wasn't going to be great. I worked for a company I watched all my friends get laid off. I I applied for a promotion and I didn't get it. All these things though, like it's not what bad happened or what could have happened or should have happened. It's what are the lessons I learned?
Yeah.
What are the things that I did that helped me get through that experience? And as long as you can articulate that, and maybe this is just a salesman in me, but that would be my advice. Every job is every person that you meet, every experience you have is another chapter in that story. And then you just have to be able to put it together. And if you can, you'll be marketable to anyone.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. It's a great point. It's good you're learning that at such a young age too, because in the corporate world, we call that your talking points, right? What are the talking points for a good situation or a bad situation? But if you can explain the how and the why and the what from each step along the way, it's great advice.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that understanding that you can reinvent yourself, even like you said, if you've worked somewhere for a year, it's okay to go to another job. Because you are right. From our generation, people looked more at longevity. How long have you been at? So you felt like you had to stay there to prove your longevity on your resume. But I think it's the opposite for your generations, right?
It's been a while though. Like when I got into my professional world around right before the .com boom, lived through the bust, and I changed jobs 3, 4, 5 times. Each time I double my salary.
Yeah.
So you got to just keep doing it. And your age is when you should do it. It needs to be strategic. I think it needs to be fairly calculated.
Right.
You don't want to be just like, oh, this sucks, I'm moving now. This sucks, 3 months later, I'm moving. You want to try to be able to tell the story. Why did it suck? Or you almost never want to say it sucked. It's more of, this is just a better fit.
Sure.
And this was a better fit and a better opportunity, more responsibilities, that kind of thing.
You should try and move too when you have some type of positive momentum.
Yeah.
Also, like I had a mentor when I was at ShareFile, even though that was a relatively short stint, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 months. But when I told him, hey, yo, I'm gonna go work at this startup called Finally, he gave me this analogy of like whenever you're at a company, you're like pulling the drawstring on a bow back, and the second you decide to make a move, especially if you move to another company, you're releasing all that energy. You got to start from the beginning. If you're applying within, say you're at a big company that has different organizations and you launch that, well, it might not go all the way back because your name is still known, your brand is still known, and you still have further to pull back. So there's just another thing to consider too. It's like, don't be afraid to make the jump, but make sure you do it when you've got it pulled back already in some capacity, because otherwise you're not gonna be able to go as far.
It's a great analogy.
It is a great analogy.
One thing I would say too is, and you learned it early on, is I would avoid the VC, the venture capitalists, because they're all about buying a company like a Citrix, completely liquidating it, layering it with debt, and then they're going to sell it to someone else at some point. And all along the way, there's a bunch of casualties.
Well, and you know, one of the things that we thought was going to be the case was that they were going to cut too far. And then maybe rehire. But with the Citrix, it was like they cut and then they cut.
They cut too far and don't rehire.
And then they cut and like they still, and you know, ShareFile just got acquired by another. And it was already being built out to sell. And like a lot of my friends that did end up making the move to ShareFile too, some of them, a handful of them are still there, but most of them got laid off also. So it's just kind of, it's tough. I mean, it's a tough situation out there. So look for companies too that really believe in their people. Look for if you're looking at a CEO or a founder, look for one who's not talking about exit strategy from the beginning. You know, look for somebody who's interested in building and growing and actually has more of a long-term view that requires good people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, do you have any other questions before I ask?
Just one maybe.
Okay.
It's going back to the music. What were say some of your strongest influences musically as you got into it? Like, you know, we've talked Billy Joel or
Allman Brothers. The Dead.
It definitely started with them, Billy Joel and Elton John, and then I also went through like a huge Beatles kick when I was in middle school. And one of the things about the Beatles in particular that I find good for anyone who's learning this type of music is that their songwriting is very particular and they have a lot of interesting chord progressions. It's not like a country tune or a pop tune that you might hear on the radio that's like, you know, everyone sees those things on Instagram. learn these 4 chords and you can play 10,000 songs.
Yeah.
It is not that.
Yeah.
It is not that. The Beatles.
It's complex, right?
It's complex,
Yeah.
and the progressions. If you'd have to be really adept to just sit down and listen and try and pick it out. Like a lot of times you'll go and you'll look up at these are the chords. And then oddly enough, another place that you find that is Christmas music.
Mhm.
Like I used to always get excited for the holidays because I'm like, all right, new shit I get to learn.
Yeah.
And those songs aren't easy either. Like they take you, and that Christmas music is really, especially the older stuff, is very jazz oriented.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
And so just find things that kind of challenge you. My dad and my mom both love Journey. I saw Journey 3 times. Well, with Filipino guy Arnel Pineda.
Yeah.
Which was again back to the like, oh well, you didn't see it with Steve Perry.
Yeah.
It wasn't Jerry. For me,
It was the experience. Yeah, you had the experience.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed that I'm there and I'm able to relate to it. And
absolutely,
that's good. That's good piano music too.
Yes.
Faithfully.
Yes. Well, they have a
and
wonderful
Open Arms.
pianist. He's amazing.
His name is escaping me.
John Carr. John.
I don't know.
Something Carr. Something Carr. But no, I'll never forget as a Gen Xer. I don't remember what album it's on, but when Open Arms first played on the radio, because that's when we would have heard it.
Sure.
It was paralyzed. You just were like, "What did I just listen to?"
Yeah.
It was that.
So beautiful.
And we were young, and we were still. I was just like taken away. And when you hear those first notes, you're just like, you stop what you're doing. It's a beautiful song.
And Slick in the band, Slick Rick, has put together a beautiful guitar arrangement of Open Arms.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, he's done the same with Vienna also, which is a tune that I'll play at gigs from time to time. But
oh my gosh, I forgot about Vienna.
Yeah, he's so talented.
I have to listen to some Journey this
Who's
week.
That's the Billy Joel.
Vienna. Oh, Vienna is.
Yeah,
Vienna is. Yes.
But all of these, it's like they all contribute.
Yeah.
And as a musician, when you're drawing upon your influences, you want to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it's like a chef, I want to grab some of these
seasonings,
these little basil, these little thyme, right? Like you go to different places, and certain songs and certain moods call for different things. Now I have like let's say it was only a piano. All right, well, I know I want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but now I have, I got 2 keyboards. I just bought a synth. I can draw from my organ, and I can make the organ sound one way or another way. I can go to the clav, and I can get that funky kind of, superstition like type vibe, Billy Preston. Then I can go to my keys. I can go to my electric piano. I can do synth pads. I can do strings.
That's cool.
And so it's like, not only do I have the musical ideas, like fundamentally just looking at the notes, but now there's so much you can do with tone. I mean, look at guitar players. They've got pedal boards that have, it's essentially the same thing, just with totally, and with a wedding band, we do the Earth, Wind, and Fire stuff. We play like, do a little dance.
Yes.
I forget who that one is. It's not Earth, Wind, and Fire, but I'm playing horns.
Is that Cool in the Gang?
Yeah, Cool in the Gang.
Yeah.
I'm playing horns. I'm doing horn section.
That's cool.
On my one, and on the other one, I'm doing other stuff. So
you're like a true conductor with
I'm
all
trying.
your different.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Steve was the musical director of that band, though. He put in more work than anyone else. He just told me what songs to play and where to show up.
That's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing I'll say, who's the band we just saw at the Black Hat, the Jerry Garcia Experience? Is that what they were called?
I think that's what they were. Garcia Experience. The Garcia
is it the
Experience.
one with Melvin Seals playing with him now?
No, that would be cool.
No,
though. Melvin has played with them now that you say that, but
he
not
has.
here.
He didn't play
we
here.
saw them here. It was phenomenal.
Really?
Have you ever
2
gone to
nights.
Black Box?
No, I've heard about it though.
It's a great venue.
Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
I was getting a routine, just turned 29, like health checkup.
Yeah.
And this guy came in the waiting room, was wearing a dead hat, and I struck up a conversation with him, and he was telling me that he saw them there.
Yes.
And that I needed to go.
Yeah, we went to both nights, and they're amazing. And they come around. They spend their winter down here, so they're always here in the winter. But
I didn't feel like that was a cover band experience.
Oh, great.
He was impressed.
I was super impressed.
He was impressed. So he even stayed after and talked to them afterwards.
Talk to the guitarist.
So don't miss that. That one's a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Anything that's coming up on the radar, I'm gonna go. So here's some shows that I'm gonna go see. There's a jam band called Dogs in a Pile.
Yep.
I haven't really dug into their stuff yet, but they're coming to Revolution Live in April, and then Daniel Donato.
Oh, he's amazing.
I've seen some of his stuff. He's coming to he's doing 2 nights at the Funky Biscuit in April.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
when?
so I'm gonna last week in April.
All right, we're
I'll have
going.
to look at
I will
that.
I would
yeah,
go to that.
We'll
Yeah.
look at that. Yeah, I like to. Well, Nathan gets seats at the bar now because he's such a regular. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's his little secret.
He
so
goes every Tuesday and gets
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
So
He's been asking me to go, and I haven't made
You
it.
gotta
I haven't
go.
made it on a Tuesday.
It's fun. Yeah, the bartender saves him however many seats he wants. So
I
he's
used to
got,
go
like,
Thursdays to Fish Depot when they did it. They sold it. It's
Yeah.
called like Bonanza. Or,
Yeah. No,
I may cut out the part about Daniel Donato.
he doesn't want the tickets.
I don't want it
So
getting sold out.
wait
down
until
there.
we buy our tickets and then.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
buy tickets first.
So before I ask my last question, was there anything? Because we can cut this part out. What I'm saying, was there anything
Oh,
on your
yeah.
sheet that we want to make sure we covered everything?
Yeah, and actually, so another really cool thing that had come out of the time when I was working at Bobby's dad's company was I work with a bunch of like mutual friends too. They had a bunch of us that they hired, all kind of in similar situation, and we're all at that time. I'm still an amateur golfer, but I was like even more amateur, and I also like to drink more than I do now.
Mhm.
But we came up with this idea. That is evolved substantially over the year, but the idea was basically let's get a bunch of our guys together. There's like 12 of us for the first year, and get a bunch of foursomes back to back, and we'll pair up. And for every beer that you and your partner drank, you got one stroke off of your
A
final.
mulligan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A stroke off your final
That's
golf
awesome.
score. And so the first year we played at Delray Country Club, just
Atlantic.
it's nice. It's not. But we showed up and we all Ubered there, and we get out of the car holding 24 packs, and one of the guys is like, "What the hell is this? A bachelor party?" And we were like, "Yeah." And we so the first year went pretty well. Save for a small incident with a golf cart, but it was fun. And then, next year I was like, all right, well, you know what? This was fun. Like, I should do it again. I try and do it every October. So, I grew it the following year. I think we had 24 people and 36.
Oh, nice.
And then the biggest it's ever been was 56. And as it evolved, I didn't want people driving. Like, I knew that was going to be a nightmare.
Mhm.
So we brought in a bus or a shuttle component where people would meet up. We'd shuttle everyone to the course. We would do our round of golf, have an award ceremony, and then shuttle everyone back to a bar.
Nice.
So we've done it 5 times in 6 years. The only year we took off was 22, which, as I was saying, was like that year where I was making the change with and is around when I stopped playing with Ruminators too. But yeah, we did the 5th annual last year. We had 48 people. Went off without a hitch. We always give out awards and prizes.
That's
and
awesome.
everything.
What's it officially called?
Oh, it's called the Beers and Birdies.
The Beers and
Beers and
Birdies.
Birdies.
Yeah, fall classic.
Is it open to anyone that wants to do it, or is it kind
Yes.
of like you and your friends?
Can't be a dick.
No, that's it. Actually,
Yeah.
you're gonna love this, Brian. We have a whole list of rules, and there's all these rules, and there's one section about like, oh, how do you get relief if your ball is behind a tree or whatever, and that's rule 6.
Yep.
And then rule 6A is the main rule is don't be a dick.
Yeah, perfect.
I like
Yeah.
that.
It's highlighted.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that's hilarious.
It's the
I
only
like
rule
that.
that's highlighted in the entire,
That's
entire
awesome.
I
rules
like
list.
that. So it's open. People
That's
can go
funny.
on. You have a site like
no site. It's word of mouth, but
Okay.
I'll probably start organizing it again here soon. It's usually
Okay.
sometime in October. I try and do it around when daylight savings happens and before the rates get before daylight savings and before the rates get jacked up for the season.
So if somebody was listening and wanted to participate, how would they find it?
Yeah,
in
you could.
October?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
You could just reach out to me directly.
Okay, so maybe we'll put in maybe some contact info. in the
Maybe I'll
description.
make an email like beersandbirdies@gmail.com.
Yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah,
we
yeah.
can put it in there. But yeah,
Okay.
it's been word of mouth mostly.
Yeah, that's
So-
cool. I love that. So,
Well,
and
yeah.
you have 48 people now? You'd
I would
I
say?
have 48 last year.
That's
yeah.
a lot.
I would assume you know everybody too, though, right? It's
So here's a success story of the golf tournament. I try and bring people in from. I have a mission statement. It's basically like, do you bring people from different social and professional circles in for a day of fun and golf and just it's like it's networking, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's all centered around a little bit of debauchery, but like a healthy amount.
Yeah.
And so one of my buddies that I went to college with, he comes into play, one year, and he comes from Tampa. My friend that I was saying I might go try and see Billy Strings with, and then my other. A friend of a friend also comes in up from Miami. They hit it off, And this was probably 3 years ago. And for this most recent one, them and like, you know, a handful of their friends, one of the guy's brother, all get an Airbnb. They all come in from out of town, and they
That's
met
cool.
through the tournament.
That's
and
awesome.
now they're doing it just because they love it.
No, that's
Yeah,
really
cool.
awesome. Is it all different ages?
Yeah.
Or is it mainly you're around your age?
So last year it was the first year I had my dad play in it, so he played with some of his friends too. So
okay,
it's a mixed bag. A couple years we've had a couple girls play it too, so it's not just guys. It's not just guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna aim to do it around October again this year. So
now, does any of the money? Do you raise any money for something?
So traditionally no, but last year was the first year that we did, and we donated a portion. It wasn't much. It was like $200-300 went to First Tee, which is an organization to help kids get acquainted with golf.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah. That's great.
So,
okay.
and I'll look to continue that this year.
Yeah.
Too.
I think you need a digital flyer for social media and all that.
I usually put it together later. So I wasn't prepared to bring it up for this. And I was like, this morning, I was like, I'm going to podcast. Let me plug Beers and Birdies.
Actually, it's something that as we get closer, we can always add it into your description. It, you know, like towards the fall, you know, if somebody's interested.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. I have a question for you guys.
Oh.
That's not allowed.
No, it's too late. I've been asking all the time. Yeah. So one thing that I was wondering, you guys been doing this, I think you said since like last summer, right?
Last summer, I think.
I think we started last May was our first episode.
Where we
bought everything in March, started figuring out the technical details. You know, because there's camera work here, there's lighting, there's audio, right? All this stuff. So we started, I think, playing with it in March, did our first episode in May.
But I don't think we released it until
I feel like it was Mayish. Maybe not. I don't know.
No, maybe May or June we released. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. First of all, this is a super impressive setup. So again, thanks for having me.
Thanks.
I'm curious. You know, you've got 3 kids, varying ages. You've been married for 33 years. You guys are in your early 50s. So you've been adults for some time. But now, after interviewing boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Zers, how is your opinion, and millennials, yeah, myself, how is your opinion on adulthood, or how's your perspective? How have these things changed based on some of the experiences you've heard from people here?
That's such a great question. I think that I've discovered there's more similarities across the generations than I thought. I think that the younger generations, the Gen Zs and the millennials, have brought such an interesting fabric into adulthood, as far as you guys are much more open to talking about your thoughts and your feelings in a positive way and reflecting on things and not just pushing things aside. I feel like you honor yourselves more. If you're going through something, you will take the time to look at it, see it, and try to resolve it or overcome it. I think that I have become incredibly impressed with the millennials and the Gen Zs and how they tackle life. And I know that anxiety seems to be a common theme in those generations, but I think your self-awareness with anxiety, with stress, with depression, with the hard things that come in adulthood, has aided you guys so much. And I think overall, you don't bury things like Gen X and boomers do. I think Gen X is just now in our midlife starting to delve into those things in ourselves.
Kind of taboo, like you shouldn't talk about it, don't acknowledge it.
There was no discussion of mental health. It was looked down on. It was judged. And so it's just now where we are stopping and giving ourselves space and permission to express some of those things, because no one ever allowed us to. But the younger generations have given us space. You guys have given us space and given us permission. So I'm grateful to Gen Z and the millennials for giving that to us, because Gen X especially is the first to say, you know, fuck it, I don't give a shit. But really, we were grinding with carrying so much pain. So my experience just doing this podcast, I feel I've just been so honored to get to know millennials and Gen Zs. And I'm so grateful to what they have brought into society. And I think the younger generations will only continue to benefit from it. I've also learned that boomers absolutely don't talk about their feelings or thoughts. And I think it's such a foreign concept to them that I I think very few of them will delve past anything.
Mhm.
I think Gen X, there's still hope. But I do think we all have faced similar issues in our lives, but the way the younger generations are handling them, I'm just incredibly impressed with you guys. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it totally does. I mean, I
Yeah.
think what we were wrapping up saying, we didn't feel that it was okay to talk about it, but as it's become more prevalent in the younger generations, it's not so crazy anymore. It's not like, let's address it. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's use that information to live better, happier, healthier lives.
Yeah. And not every Gen Xer will. Like a lot of Gen Xers will judge.
Not every millennial will. Not every Gen Z will either.
It's true. It's true. But there's definitely a culture in Gen X of, especially among the Gen X men, of because we've talked about that in episodes, but they bury their feelings, and what do we need feelings for? And we just go forward, and but it comes out in other ways that are unhealthy if you don't. So there's definitely gonna be Gen Xers that don't, but I do think because of millennials, I think millennials brought the work-life balance onto the scene. I think millennial men and women, when they get married or have a relationship, work really well together, sharing responsibilities domestically and outside of the home. Gen X never even discussed any of that. And then I think Gen Z is whatever millennials have created, Gen Z is just running with it. You know, they're fearless. And the Gen Z women, their girlhood is strong. Like they support each other like crazy. Whereas Gen X women were taught to compete with each other and we were more catty. So those changes, I've just been so honored to be able to hear all these stories. And I think it's positively affecting our generation. Would you agree?
Yeah. I don't have nearly as an eloquent answer as she does. I would say for myself, and just doing this podcast, is meeting people like yourself and others, and how humbling and how much of an honor it is for someone like yourself to come in and share so much with us and share your life story. And it might be easier for you because of the generational perspective, but we've had some folks our age come on and share some really just fascinating stuff. And it's like, it's just an honor to be in the seat and to have these conversations with people. And then, you know, to your point, you be a sponge. I'm a sponge. I'm always learning and sponging. So I hear some of these things that what's that?
I'm sponging.
I'm sponging.
It's gonna be a new saying.
There you go. But
Sponging.
I'm hearing these experiences and conversations and especially from women, and it's like, wow, that's really wild. And it's really cool. It's been cool. So you learn. It's cool. We continue to evolve, right?
Sure.
You'd think, you know, I think when we were younger, we'd look up to people older than us and they were sort of waiting to die in a sense. It kind of feels like that. We're still living hard. Like, you know,
I would say Gen X is pioneering old age.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to go down quietly. We're going to continue going until probably the day we die. I think as a generation, you know, we are. And hopefully that allows you guys to still to do the same and to know that life ends when it ends. It doesn't end when you're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80. I used to think like 70 was decrepit, and now I'm like 16 years away from that, which is crazy.
Well,
right?
Yeah, and plus our name, right? Gen X adulting. It's like we're fucking adulting here.
Yeah,
we're not. You know what I mean? It's like
one thing I will tell you.
We had to grow up at some point.
One thing is that the way you feel right now, you're gonna age, but you're gonna still feel like this in your brain. Like you're not. The essence of you is always the same. You just happen to be aging.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
No, one question I thought maybe I might get asked a variation of was like, you know, do you feel like an adult?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes more than others, you know, like the fact that I have people that rely on me, and especially like the opportunity I've had professionally makes me feel more like an adult, but like I'm a kid at heart. And it's funny you brought up The Office, because like, even in my professional situation, like I always thought Michael Scott was the funniest, and like I know we have fun. Our team is the cash cows, like get the moolah, like Like one of the other guys bought me a cowbell that I rang one time for the meeting, and like, you know, I don't know, you can't take everything so seriously.
Yes,
and you got to try new things.
Yeah,
and you got to mix it up, and you know, just I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to do this. You know, you talk about how much people are willing to share. when I first got invited, I was like, I'm not going to say anything.
It would have made for a really boring episode.
I know. And you know, even now, like as we're wrapping it up, I'm like, you know, maybe we should cut some things and post, but I don't know, you know.
You can reflect on it and then let us know.
I think I will, because like I just, even the format and like having the opportunity to come and do this, and like the exercise of, and I mentioned this to you before we started, of like, it's all about telling stories. So how do we look back at our lives so far and like put a storytelling lens on it? I think so often we just look at the experiences that we go through and we don't get a chance to spend them or make just look at them and how they can be used to shape us and mold us. More we just take them for what they are. And so I think I'm happy with how this went, and you guys have been great hosts. Just
thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I think that everyone has a story, whether you're your age, 29. We've had 24, 25-year-olds. We had a 61-year-old here yesterday. It's where your story is now, and it's going to keep evolving.
Sure,
you know, and I think it helps people to reflect on where they come from, because then they realize how far they've come. Because sometimes you don't realize all the things you've done and all the things you've accomplished and learned until you really sit down and say it. And then you're like, wow, I did do a lot, you know, and I should be proud of myself. You know, it gives you that moment.
We say everyone has a story, and we almost gloss over it, but everybody has a story that's unique to them, that's really cool, and it's really special. No matter what it is, it's really cool and special. And it's different and it's unique. And for us to sit in here and participate and talk, it's
awesome.
It's awesome.
But as far as being an adult, we just happen to be people that have aged, but we literally, like, I remember I used to think, oh, the adults will know what to do. And then you were like, oh shit, I'm the adult, but you don't. And that's one thing I'll tell people. Don't wait until you think you know what to do. Like, you're just no one knows what they're doing. People put on a good front, but everyone's just kind of doing it. And half the people are just pretending. It's like delusion. So you just need to go for it, because like we could have not started this podcast because other people are doing it.
Yeah.
But no one's better than anyone else. So you have to live I'm big on living an authentic life. You have to live your authentic life. You only get one life, and just go for it. Don't compare yourself to anyone else, because it's your life. And that's adulting in my mind. I finally have learned that.
I think on that front too, and especially for someone your age, just be a leader. Lead your own path. And when others need leading, lead them. You know, you're now in management, so you're by default a leader.
Yeah, definitely.
Of people, you know?
Yeah. So, but there's no secret. It's very subjective. Everyone has their own experience. So, just to continue to live an authentic life. But I think
that's the best answer to the previous question of how's your perspective changed? You know, you said it all comes back, and through doing this, you know, you're able to kind of draw that conclusion. So
yeah. No, it's true. We learn just as much as when people come here and they leave. And we've had so many people say, gosh, I didn't even realize that about myself, or this is the first time I've ever said that. But we also are learning every time we do this about ourselves.
It's almost like a therapy session.
We've had people say that.
We've had people say that, yeah. And that's why we also always say, when you get home, if you need something taken out, that's fine.
Well, but that's probably the honor in it for us, is you feel like that. You feel like you got something out there, and so if it's a therapy session, that implies maybe you feel pretty good.
I do feel good. No.
So
positive.
I was a little nervous, so I've never been on a podcast before. I don't know how much I'm going to say, what we're going to talk about. You know, I saw some of the other episodes. I knew we had the music vein in common.
Yeah.
So I figured we'd go down that one. And I put some thought into it beforehand. Like, all right, how do I want to structure this? How's this going to go?
Yeah.
But you guys are great.
I think you killed it.
Oh, personally, absolutely.
I think you killed it.
Absolutely.
You did a great job.
No question.
Appreciate it, guys.
And that leads me to my last question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I anticipated this one. I think for now I'm really, really happy with what I'm doing with Finally. So I'm going to keep riding that wave and back to sponging. Yeah. I'm going to do that.
Sponging.
I'm going to do that as long as I can with this current opportunity. But even from leadership above me, a lot of them have other things that are going on, and they have other sources of income, and they're entrepreneurs in their own right. And they've pushed me to do that. And then, of course, with my dad being a huge entrepreneurial influence in me, I'd like to get something up and running off on the side, working with AI, potentially scoring calls or doing something else and I think what you guys just said, we could have not started a podcast because there's other people out there that are doing it already. I'm like, wow, I could not do what I want to do, which is start my own company because, I don't know, there's other people in the market already. It's all still so early. Like just, have the confidence, take a risk, take a shot and figure it out. It's like trial by fire. It's either going to sink or it's going to swim, especially with a business like that. It's not like there's a huge upfront capital expense. It's more just time. And if I go into it with that mentality too, let me just learn. So I'd like to get that up off the ground running. I already, have business registered and things like that, but it's still super early stages. And then I'd like to spend some time abroad in another country. I'd like to get that going so that I could work with US clients and maybe go to Spain or maybe to Latin America. I've been working on my Spanish. It's not good. I'm not going to do it on the podcast. But I think that's another thing that's important to me too, is to be, multidimensional. Variety is the spice of life. That's another one of my sayings.
That's so true. That is so true.
I think that's where I see myself in a couple years, maybe 5 years. And, who knows, maybe, the finally wave takes me 7 years, 10 years. I'm not sure. Because again, I just feel so blessed to be with the people that I'm working with now. Or it could all go down tomorrow. And I could be trying to figure it out. So I'm just going to take my day by day. And as long as I prioritize increasing my knowledge and, keeping a humble and an open-minded approach, I think everything's going to work out all right.
I think those are great goals. And I think just the fact that you take lessons from all of your life experiences, you're way ahead of the game to do that. It's such a great skill, and it is a skill, and it has to be practiced. And I think that you are excelling in that area. And even if it all blows up tomorrow, I think you're going to be fine. And you know that because you've been there. And so, and I always view those as opportunities. Okay, then this means there needs to be a change, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but something better is coming along. So. But either way, I think you're going to do great and be just fine.
The one thing I would add is, so when we started the podcast, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We just had an idea, right? And you're kind of talking about that on an entrepreneurial front. Just start, and what you'll learn in the first week and the third and the fourth and the sixth month, it's just very different. We know so much more than day one. But if we never took day one, we wouldn't know shit. So it's an interesting...
Just start.
It's an interesting concept.
Just gotta do it. Again, life's too short. Like we talked about when you first got here, we hit midlife and we realized if we're gonna do it, we got to do it.
And we're not knocking off Rogan from the top anytime soon, right? It's not even an objective or a goal,
right?
No.
But it's wherever it goes, and we're having fun.
Well, and that's the authenticity, is you have to know what your motivation is, and it's coming from a good place. And then no matter what you do, it's going to be fine because it's going to be satisfying.
I do still want Elon Musk as a guest. I really do, just because I find him to be fascinating.
Have you written to him?
No, but
that's probably a good place to start.
Start.
Yeah, there you go.
Just start. So. But thank you so much for your story, Guller.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it,
thank you. And we will put all the links to all the things
I know
in the description. We will. And so that if anyone's interested and wants to know where to find Guller and his band and all that stuff, it'll be in his description. So.
I have listened to the band. I was checking them out today. Definitely recommend them. I do like it. You guys jam. I love it. It was awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was
Thanks
good.
so much, Brian.
Yeah, so definitely check them out. And again, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll have you back maybe in like 5 years and see where you are, see what's going on.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you to our listeners. Please leave us any comments or questions. We love to read them, and we will see you next time. Bye.